I like the Howard. I really like the I'll probably be
Looks like one dude and then 5 women carrying pages. None of them all was like young enough to be a doctor.
Now I'm going to ask you this question. What kind of imagery is present in that thing that I read? There was imagery of X, Y, Z. Talk about that real quick. What kind of imagery is present? Because unfortunately, you don't get to write about anything in the book that doesn't have imagery attached to it. You have to write about how Harding uses images to create ideas. So even though you love this moment, if this moment is a moment about deconstruction, but there isn't the kind of image that you're tracing, you don't get to use this. Now you can refer to it. You can say similar to when George's father has the seizure, comma, in this moment, you know, so you can reference it, but it can't be a core of your paper because your paper is how imagery makes meaning. So talk to the kid next to you about the kinds of images present in what I just read. While I try to get YouTube Live going again. Anatomical imagery. Oh, I'm just yelling things out.
Actually, for like, I think Steven was on earlier, but how would the fingers in the water? Like you're saying, like, what does that mean? Like, eating your son's fingers?
I like how people start where like there's blood on his face and blood and then blood on the face.
All right. Oh, we gotta get going. Look at the verbs associated with Kathleen. Animal imagery. Did anybody notice that? Like what? Pounced and she barked. Very nice. Anything else? What about mechanical imagery or imagery of clocks associated with the scene? Any words jump out that you can say, oh no, that's not a human, that's a clock. Hinges and corkscrews. Very nice.
Greasy dark blood.
Greasy dark blood is what?
Oil.
What?
Oil.
Yeah, that liquid imagery, you know. And if you wanted to write a paper about liquid imagery and not just water, I could get that because water doesn't have to be the only thing that flows and ripples and whatever. But there, cool. What else? Any other imagery present in this vein?
I thought that when he felt like his dad was going to split open, it reminded me of like taking apart a clock.
Absolutely. Or if you look to like 7 lines below that, it talks about how George had split kindling. The idea of the trees are still there because we split wood and that, you know. Nice. I like that. Anything else? Anatomical. Anything else? Let's go a little farther. So keep going in the scene. This is the part that matters, is when actually George has the revelation. I would argue that page 97 is one of the epiphanies of the book. I got 8 people watching. I guess that's a good thing. Here we go. Halfway down at 96. Get the stick in, Georgie. The end. Get it in. Work for it. Howard's head banged. The floor and banged the floor and banged the floor again. See the rhythm? Is he in tune? In time? George managed to wedge the end of the stick between his father's teeth in the side of his mouth. Kathleen instantly took the stick and ferociously worked it deeper. Without looking, she grabbed a seat cushion from the floor and slid it under her husband's head in between bangs on the floor. Howard's feet kicked at the legs of the table. Darla stood in the doorway and shrieked. Margaret G. grasped for breath. Joe squealed. Daddy's broken! That's it, Georgie. That's almost it, little lamb. There was so much noise from my father's boots kicking the floor and kicking the legs of the table so that everything on it jumped and crashed back down or leapt off the table and clattered or shattered on the floor. Glass and food and forks and knives were all over the floor, and Buddy the dog whined and barked, and Joe and Darla screamed, but my father was in the middle of it, strangely quiet, as if concentrating or distracted, as wires and springs and ribs and guts popped and exploded and unraveled and unhinged. He was smiling when he nearly bit my fingers off, or it felt like he did. And that was quiet too. My mother got hold of his chin and I forced the cedar stick into those bloody teeth, and I didn't feel like I might be hurting a person anymore, which made me sicker. And there was blood everywhere from my fingers, which seemed detached from my hand and just to dangle from it, although I could feel blood thumping in them. And there was blood all over my father's face and in his mouth, which was my blood, and in his hair and on the floor, which was his blood from the cut he got on his head when it hit the floor, the chair, as he fell. And for some reason, I noticed Russell the cat bobbing his head with ears pricked up and his eyes wide and his pupils contracted and his little triangle nose twitching as he sniffed and stared at the blood. Instead of terror, though, I thought, so this is what it is. I know what it is now. My father is not a werewolf or a bear or a monster, and now I can run away. Talk to the smart kid next to you about that.
George mentioned that he ran away from home.
Well,
Yeah, but George
I
does
think
run
it's
away
one
from home.
section.
Like,
You
he
said one
doesn't feel
that's set up
comfortable
in our
waiting
house.
until he has to get his
Sort of how I noticed.
And that's kind of
When
why,
he gets his
that's
hands-
why he won't die yet. He's trying to get the answers in his life together so he can die.
His body is not.
That's
not the
point.
Yeah, but it's a book, dude.
I know, and things
You
are
know,
different in books.
yeah.
Yeah, he wanted answers. It's not my dad. It's weird. He saw it. It was like this. He's not a werewolf. He just has seizures that scare me a lot. Right? But anyway, and then he ran away. My dad's company started his life. That's right. So, it's a good kid.
Susan lives in
Come on.
It's weird because it's like,
Well, not a human anymore.
George like
Same thing with paradox. Very mechanical in because when he runs away later, he's like, I need love. Which I mean, he's so good, such an awkward position. In relation to his daughter, that he was willing to forget it. Really, he looked at it and didn't think about his daughter at all.
different himself.
And it's only because he's dying.
Okay. Anybody have any comments, word, phrases? What word are you going to write about in your paper for sure? If you're pulling this passage out, what are you definitely going to write about? What line? Start with a quote. Start with text always. Ooh, raise your hand. Yay. And you are? Katie, tenant. Nice.
When it says after Georgie, that's almost physical land.
Uh-huh.
And then
Why?
because it's showing like that they live their whole life shelter. And so they still in that old innocence and
Why? Where do you get innocence from?
little lamb.
Okay, good.
in your childhood.
And you could point out little lamb as alliterative. It's also this image of animals or whatever attached to Georgie. Good. And so you get innocence, yes, and?
And then that's why he says that now he can like run away because he's lost that innocence and is able to like grow up and have his own life.
Yeah, this is an epiphany, a loss of innocence moment, okay? Mr. Leva loves those things. And the bottom line is you have, it's framed by animal imagery, right? Because you have lambs and dogs and cats and werewolves, okay? It's a very animal imagery thing. But the idea of what is a metaphorical image versus what is animal, what a real one. Ooh, what else? Ooh, I got something. Yeah, you're Eli, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I like where he says, like, but my father was in the middle of it, strangely quiet, as if concentrated and distracted, as wires and springs and ribs and guts popped and exploded and unraveled and unhinged.
Nice. Did Webb teach you polysyndeton? Polysyndeton. Why do we have that? You know, and. I said and so many times, right? Because we're creating the intensity of the moment. Why'd you pull that part out?
Because he kind of puts his parallel in the same sentence. He says wires and springs, and then he says and ribs and guts.
Right.
He says popped and exploded and unraveled and unhinged, just like the human fleshy stuff from the clock machine stuff. I think it's really
It could be more opposite, right? Like as you say, as the concrete and the inorganic and the organic, but they're all kind of part of the same cogs and gears and whatever, and it's all unraveling. Ooh, and Anything else? What's your name? Just go.
The line
Just play along.
Daddy's broken, where like Howard is supposed to be this tinker and stuff. He's supposed to be fixing broken things, but he himself is broken.
Very nice. Now, George is well, Howard's a tinker, and then George also is set on repairing those things. Good. Both of the men are kind of obsessed with reparation, right? Repairing things, right? Nice. But he's actually the broken force. Nice. So wait a minute, is that part of what George is trying to reassemble? Is his broken father, his memory with his father, his relationships, whatever. Nice. Comments, questions? All right, we have about, 15 minutes left? Yeah. So I want to do a couple more things real quick. The first thing I want to do is, if you guys have a piece of paper, which I gave you, no, you weren't here. Here's all the papers I gave out last time, right? Did you guys? Yeah, you weren't here, so I said I'd give you this. This is, you guys are going to have to do a Q2. Now, in theory, if the world doesn't, disappear or go, like if this is the winter that never stops, as climate change finally tips, or I don't know what's going to happen. I've never not been able to predict the future as much as I mean, schools are so predictable. I will say this. You're taught, from a very early year, it'd be like if you guys were farmers and you were taught that, we put the crops in the ground and they grow at a certain time. Schools are nice because we're taught we start in August and we're taught we end in May. And some of you are going to go on to the real world and you're going to get jobs where in May you just keep going and it never ever stops and you never reset. Well, the cool thing is school ends in May in theory. And in theory, in May you take an AP exam. And in theory, 86% of you will pass it. Okay, so look at the kids next to you. If you want to decide that right now, that's fine. I don't care. Okay, but at the end of the day, is that two? Yeah. You're going to have to take a test, and the test is in theory. I've heard three things about the test. Number one is they plan on giving a 3-hour test no matter what the situation. Number two is they plan on offering it both remote and in person for whatever situation exists. Like if you're not comfortable sitting in a room breathing with 3 people for 3 hours, then you can do it at home. Looks like that's still going. Yeah. And then number 3 is I've heard that all the scoring is going to be online again. So I think you're going to be able to, if you're doing it online, you'll type, but if you're doing it in person, you'll still handwrite it, and then they'll actually scan every single page that you did, which is amazing because 340,000 kids take the test. And if you figure that each of them writes 3 essays and each of them writes at least a page, I mean, that's millions of pieces of paper that have to be scanned. That's a bad summer job. Anyway,
What's your summer
you're no, not the scanning. So you get a passage that looks like one of these things. So if you look at the one that says AP Literature and Composition on the top, it's the one with it's the one that I gave you second. That's the passage from Tinkers. That's what you're going to create for me. You're going to pull a passage out of Tinkers. It's not going to be that long. But that's how long the one on the AP exam is usually. They're almost always about 60 lines of text. Okay? And so you would have this little vignette from a story you've never read. Now, of course, you've read it, and you know who Howard is, and you know about Haggard Country Lives, and you see the power of the fire and the ice imagery in contrast here, and you see the idea of, you would see the power of the word like unhitched in the last paragraph, or the short sentence, short and terse syntax in contrast with the rather elaborate and winding sentences. And you write all kinds of things about it. That's all you're going to do. You're just going to pick a passage from Tinkers, and you're actually going to format it so it looks like this. You're going to say something. The following is a passage from Paul Harding's 2009 novel Tinkers. You'll say, in the passage, and then you tell me what passage you pick. You give me the what. You say, in the passage, George has a revelation about his father during a Christmas seizure. Then you will say, read the passage carefully, and then you will say, then discuss what techniques Harding uses to develop his ideas or what. And then you will type word for word the passage in. And the process of typing something, I don't know, Webb used to make his students do this exercise. He used to make them rewrite things over and over, like rewrite passages. You want to talk about a way you learn something well is you actually go through it. Just like you learn Shakespeare by memorizing it, right? You learn this passage perhaps by actually typing it in, realizing, wait a minute, look at that. There are all these ands that I'm typing. That's bad grammar. And the Grammarly tries to fix it on the computer or whatever. And you're like, why would he use and in succession? But then here's the kicker is you have to write the paper too. So flip to the other paper. The other paper has a big arrow on the bottom. That is a paper from 1999. So if you went to this school in 1999, at the end of the year, you would have to take an AP exam. And the AP exam would have been this. It says, in the following passage from book I've never read, Cormac McCarthy's novel, The Crossing. In this passage, the narrator describes a dramatic experience. Read the passage carefully. Then in a well-organized essay, show how McCarthy's techniques convey the impact of the experience. Every AP is always, here's what it is, tell how the author creates an why. Every single one is always that. When you look at this thing, you're like, okay, it's about 65 lines long. It's 3 paragraphs. It's not as nicely like spaced as the other one. And you read this. So do me a favor right now. Take your pen out and read this passage right now. And just kind of move your way through this. I'll give you just a few minutes just to read this. Okay? You got nothing. You have no context for what this is.
Dramatic experience.
Yes, it is. gonna give you like 30 more seconds. Stop. There's never enough time. It's that George, right? My job is to make it so whatever gets thrown in front of you in 40 minutes, you can read it, understand it, and feel pretty confident writing about it in a way that's better than the average kid. You get 6 points. You get 1 for a thesis that makes a claim that's defendable. So what kind of claim would you make? Well, hopefully you're going to make a claim that is complex about the dramatic experience this person encounters. And hopefully it's not, in this passage, a guy falls asleep and has a weird dream. Because that is not the significance of the experience. That's just the what. Okay? What we want to do is say, what, the guy falls asleep and has a dream, leads to a profound why. And that why is something about, I don't know, maybe it's about the nature of fear. Maybe this passage is about the idea of immortality. Maybe this is a passage about the intangible resonating with the tangible. Maybe this is a passage, the reason I'm giving you this is this passage totally reminds me of Tinkers. Because we have this very mechanical clockwork beginning where we have a situation in the first paragraph. Did you see how clear it is and direct? If I were to write this thing, you can write however you want. Good luck, have power. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, after scoring AP papers for 15 years, for the thing, the students who work best, in my opinion, they write 5-paragraph essays. They write a little intro, and then they write 3 good paragraphs. In their first paragraph, they rip apart the first third of whatever they're given, be it a poem, be it a passage, whatever. And they just, a lot of times, establish the situation. And you talk about how Cormac McCarthy establishes the situation by doing what? By using pronouns, by using polysynthesis. I don't know what he does in the beginning. Then we complicate it. And how do we complicate it? We complicate it with allusions. We complicate it with whatever, which then leads to the resolution. And if you can reconcile that 3rd paragraph of this thing and the incredible, intense power of the unity of the natural world and the matrix of life this dead wolf seems to be running through, and this transcendent moment, you're doing something really powerful, as opposed to this guy had a weird dream, which is what a lot of students do. So what I'm going to kind of encourage you to do is try to practice what you're going to be doing at the end of the year all year long with stuff you're much more comfortable with, because you're going to pick the passage. You're going to write the essay. You're not going to do it in 40 minutes. So how can you not have complete success on one of the first papers I ask you? Your job is just to find that passage in Tinkers, right? Comments or questions about this? So we have like 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes, all I'm going to do in 2 minutes is tell you what we're going to be doing. We didn't even touch chapter 3 today, and I didn't even finish a few things I wanted to mention in chapter 2. But we have to finish this book, because interestingly enough, in 1 week, September's half over. And we still have, to do a lot this semester. So here's what I'm going to ask of you, is between now and next week, hello, don't they? I want you to make sure you're ready for chapter 3 when you come back, okay? Keep looking for a passage that you're going to explicate, flagging them and all that. We'll look at a model explication next week. Keep hunting for imagery, just looking for those bugs, looking for those ships. Reread the imagery list and you realize, I haven't even been tracking architecture. I should have been doing that, okay? On Friday, you will find, no, this is wrong. There is no Friday this week. That's a lie. Let me get rid of that. And then make sure you answer the checkout question. Okay, so let me get rid of that. That is a blatant lie. There is no Friday. On a normal week, though, you would be given a question on Friday. So let me get rid of that. Let me screw it all. When I made that yesterday, I was confused. Does anybody have questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if you're through chapter 3, you might have a really nice few days off, right? You might go back and revisit some of the books. Yeah.
Would you say that McCarthy, because I just did this line here where he touches the whole set, and I said he moves from simple to complex.
Yeah.
Is that kind of accurate? Is that what he does?
He moves from simple to complex?
Yeah.
Well, I believe he, this is in the beginning, we have this very concrete mechanical, we are one with the physical world that surrounds us.
Came down the mountain, he set his horse down, he made a fire.
Right, but at this moment, when he touches the teeth, boom, none of that's in the real world, right? So he moves to the more abstract, and there's something holy going on in this passage. Hey, have a nice day. Don't smoke. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being a part of our role. Yes. Bye. Thank you for your help. Nice. Thank you, sir. Nice job. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you have a good day. I don't know. Probably not. Okay, bye. You gotta get your mask doesn't fit that, but it's very spirited. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
No, thank you. Have a nice day.
Well, do you want us to wait outside?
You can come in, but you can't sit down for 5 minutes because this antibacterial thing or viral thing has to do its little job. So you should do a lap, man. You should just walk. So you can set your stuff down, but like you should move, right? No, you do some laps. Follow the arrows. Come back. I really think that you should. Oh shoot. This one now. I'm like, I want to go in here. Yep. This is. Are we? I don't know. Friesen, we last time you were now. Okay, stand around for 5 minutes. Got it. You can dump your stuff if you want to do a lap, Sorry. Okay.
Where's the prawns?
I'm assuming this is probably the best.
I don't know. I'm just gonna sit on the
Oh my goodness. Oh, webs? Wait, shit. Yeah, the desks have to dry just every period, so that's kind of one of the things you'll experience here. So I want to get you this and this and this. I forgot to hand this out to last hour. Oh, well. Oh, I won't see him for a week. Well, we just must accept these things. All right, so we're on there. Got 3 vouchers. That's good. If you're at home watching, hey, welcome. Thanks for being here. You have to turn off restricted mode on your YouTube in order to comment in the chat box.
You should stream on Twitch. That way we can all sub you.
All do
Make
what?
some money.
Oh, well, yeah, well, exactly. You can send me money live. I researched it last night, 1,000 subscribers. So if I have 159 students. So if they all subscribe, they can all get each of their parents to subscribe. I'm almost there. I need 1,000 subscribers. And I only have 23 right now, which is really sad.
I subscribe.
Nice. Okay, so this is on. I'm going to do this. And then we go to classwork. I don't care. So I'm not going to do mail. I don't really care about that. Factory farming. I don't care about that. Don't care about that. Oh,
Guys, the webcam looks so weird. I don't like it.
I think you have a lot
Oh,
of
he's
kids
so
in this class that do
It's so weird.
What
up?
Guys, it's a good class. Friesen, can we just sit anywhere?
yes, but not until the desk's dry. So.
Oh. I don't want to die. I'm gonna go.
The chemicals. Oh.
Friesen, how many kids did you have in this grade on the A-Day?
7.
Yeah, something like that. Wasn't it all girls too?
Yeah, it was 7 girls. I
You
remember.
guys are following along. See, somebody watched. You guys should do the hand sanitizer thing.
Oh, okay. I've never heard.
Unless you think this kind of school is worse and you just want to shut it down, okay? That's
Wait, I got you myself.
that's a choice too.
Contaminated, I just sanitized you.
I'm good, how are you?
903.
No, dude, my boy underneath just put over the pillow like
Literally was just
watching
laying
TV.
back. It was so funny, yeah.
It was so awesome. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I know I'm so amusing. I'm like, my mom had like,
Exactly. I literally just walked through the whole room.
oh, that was so cute. Yeah.
Bro, it's I know.
I know. I love your
You guys can't sit. Yeah. I don't know. No one was.
Hi, guys. Second class. Two spots.
Yeah.
So what? Just take your hands.
Watch
Say
like
screw all
You gotta like, you gotta look at it because the light. Yeah. Right?
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's straighter than my natural.
Second most.
A lie. Some days it's straight, some days it's
Can you guys hand sanitize if you did not do that, please, okay? We're supposed to do that several times a day. We're gonna dry our hand out. I have a stake in hand lotion companies that's gonna hopefully become quite profitable by the end of the semester.
Guys, I'm so.
Hand sanitizer, YouTube videos, and a coffee truck, which I will park in the student lots. Do you think that would make money? I think I figured it out.
You have 72.
You just spent the whole class here just getting.
So this one.
If
I've blown it, but I can't take my mask off.
is it 902 or 903? All right, that's full, my friends.
Why can't you show me?
So if you would like, you may borrow these gloves, because I don't really care that you contaminate each other's hands, okay? What I would care about is that you would contaminate the book, okay? So if you'd like to look at the book, you may, okay, but you have to use the gloves. This is the book. See, signed by Paul Harding, okay? To Eric, love Paul, okay? And here, okay? So this is the signed copy of Tinker.
Here's another
Okay?
question. Would you make us?
Won the
use gloves
Pulitzer
even if it
Prize.
wasn't COVID? Is it that special?
Yeah. Well, and it's your all dirty birds. So, welcome to English class. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making English part of your day. If you're at home right now, thank you. Like and subscribe right there, okay? You're gonna have to tell me a little bit about your experience at home. And after hearing this from 2 other classes, a lot of what you say is I'm just gonna do whatever, because here's where I'm at. I want to talk about Tinkers. You're here. We're gonna talk about Tinkers. Now, when you're at home, if you can hear, because I'm YouTube living it, yay! If like first hour the stream goes down in the middle of the period, okay, and so what I did is I created a new stream and I put it up. I communicated that on Google Classroom and on the GroupMe, and some students were never on. Like right now I have 3 students watching at home, okay? So of the 7 people who are here, 3 are watching. But I don't even know. And then everybody's having problems at home too, because you have those terrible Chromebooks. I think you can chat on YouTube Live if you turn restricted mode off on your Chromebook. Did anybody have success doing that yesterday?
No, I just used.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
used my regular.
Yeah, you guys do workarounds, but there is a way to turn off that mode on the thing, I believe.
As students, I don't think we're allowed to turn on restricted mode. I think you
I don't know.
Oh, really?
As long as you're in your Jeffco Schools account.
If you just click make an account, it takes like 5 seconds.
Okay, there you go. So here's the way it works, just so you can see. I have 4 people online. Nice job. Like and subscribe. I have a screen right now where I'm staring at myself, which I hate. Okay.
Yep.
And in that screen, I think you can see this kind of. But at home, I put this online. And so you can put this up on your own window or whatever you want. So all the links in here and the videos in here, you can do at your own leisure. When I'm teaching, I never teach here. I teach around, I wander. So sometimes you see this nothing, right? I also yesterday had to make 3 YouTube live streams. I had scheduled those for, I scheduled them over the weekend because I came in over Labor Day for 7 hours over Labor Day to get ready for 2 days of teaching. Okay. Yesterday, hands down, was one of the 5 worst days of my entire career, without a doubt. Now I probably throw away the whole shooting years, but it was by far worse than my first day of teaching when I was 25 at Goddard Middle School, having to teach health to 7th graders, okay, or 8th graders, okay, where we played birth control bingo. But anyway, and that's actually not even a joke. Okay. Oh yeah. I still remember teaching. I had all these students. These are 8th graders, first day, and I didn't have enough, because what happens is when you're a teacher the first year, you just get the room they give you. But if you're like old like me, you've like built the room. Like I have matching desks. I have 2 windows. You know, I have all kinds of things that I've earned. I have a book room. I have all kinds of things that I've earned because I've outlasted or lived the other people in this department. Okay, and then you slowly like claw something decent because we all get the same salary. It's the thing about teaching. I could give you crossword puzzles every day and I'd still get the exact same salary. So my first year teaching, I got this terrible room. There was literally, I'm going to try to stop saying that unless I really mean literally. There's a crack in the wall below that window where I did have a window where you could see daylight through the crack. I came in all gung-ho and I had all of my posters that I was going to put up and I put them on a counter because the next day I was going to put up my posters and the custodians threw them all away. And so I had nothing to put on the walls and I didn't have enough desks. So I had like 31 8th graders. And the period, oh God, it was so awful because when you make a middle school schedule, you start with lunch because you have to get every kid fed. So you say, okay, we have to have 3 rotations of lunch and they must be on these times and you must have this much time between the lunches to book out, to clean or whatever. So then they did that. Then they had to book out band. So they had to figure out when the band classes were going to be, and they started dropping kids in band. Then they had to book out Spanish. Then they had to book out, because there were different math classes, because some kids are in, pre-algebra and some kids are in whatever math, and they had to book that in. And so bottom line is the last thing they put in the schedule was English. So one of my classes, I had to teach English for 25 minutes, and then the kids went to lunch, and then they came back for 20 minutes. So I had 2 little windows of time to try to teach them. Didn't have enough books for all my students. So when I taught the outsiders, I also had to teach Forbidden City at the exact same time, 2 different hours, and then flip them. Didn't have enough desks, so then I had tables on the edge. And so I had all the people in desks, and I had the people over there. And you were lucky if you were on the tables because that was the panel of experts. And anytime I was teaching, and you guys didn't know, I would always defer to the panel, and whatever they said was always right. So if you sat on the panel of experts, you got 100% on every quiz because, we would argue and you're like, well, the panel says it's right. And you'd be like, but, and you would feel like so destroyed. But that's part of your job of being a middle school teacher. But I still remember there were 2 girls that sat here. And there was a girl here and there was a girl here. I'm not making this up. And there was Stephanie. Stephanie was about this tall, blonde hair, pigtails. She had her notebooks all together. And she had, gone to Target, had all of the notebooks, all designed. Some of you are the Stephanies, and they were all perfectly done and ordered. And she had her Beauty and the Beast t-shirt on, and she's ready to start her first day of school. And next to her is Crystal with a K, whose hair was all pulled back and discovered eyeliner. Just crazy eyeliner. And she's and she was. The front of her on her Beauty and the Beast shirt, let's just say it could have been a boy shirt or a girl shirt, okay? And Crystal was making use of fashion, and she was sitting there and pleading and just chewing her gum. And I remember thinking to myself, biologically, those girls are the exact same age. But one of them is 11 and the other one is, 23, And I'm like, okay, let's talk about health. Anybody know about birth control? And well, okay, anyway, so I don't even remember what I was talking about. So I started with birth control bingo. Oh, bad days of teaching. Okay, so yesterday sucked. Worse than that. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm on YouTube Live staring at myself, staring at a chat box that apparently you guys can't chat in. Okay, now I have right here, I have Google Classroom on this screen. And on this screen, I have Google Classroom, but I have the teacher view, not the student view. So when you guys make comments, I'm not sure I can really see it. Although it does occasionally refresh. And then over here, turn slightly, I have Group Me, where I can see if you say something. So last hour, Ebony and Kaylin said, is YouTube buffering? I don't have it, blah, blah. And then I said, I will reboot. So I launched here. And then I also have the email where people send me an email. And I fixed it yesterday. I created some rules for my emails because yesterday, I'm a person who prides himself on having very few emails in his email box. I changed my, did I tell you this story? I make sure I have under 20 emails on my phone email and at home, everywhere, at all times. And I started that like 2 years ago, and it makes me a happier person. So I have under 20 because I have 2 school accounts and I have 2 home accounts, and everything I get goes to those accounts. And every single day I make sure there's under 20 because everything that goes in my inbox, one of 3 things happens to it. One is it's another deal that I can get, cut rate insurance or Geico or whatever, and that goes in the trash. Okay? Or it's something that I have to deal with it, and I deal with it, or I file it. So if it is something from Sound of the Rockies, because I'm the Student Center sponsor and they want to tell me something about homecoming, I take it and I drag it into my Jeffco inbox, into my Senate folder, into my events folder, into prom, into homecoming, into 2020. And so I click it and that's where it lives. And so when I need to find something about this year's homecoming, no. It's right there. Okay. I know. If Senate would just get their act together, we could totally have homecoming in a pandemic. Yeah. It's like people that live in my neighborhood. I'm sorry. People in my neighborhood, they want part of their HOA dues back because the pool didn't open this summer, And it's just like, I know the pool didn't open. This is a global pandemic, right? You understand all kinds of other things in your world, but they want their like $40, I don't know. Maybe you want that. You want your $40? I mean, well, whatever. I'm a person who prides himself on having under 20 emails in my email box. Yesterday, at the end of 3rd and by the time I got to 7th hour, I had 177 emails in my email box. And I'm like, oh dear. And I'd already done this during 1st and 3rd. I emptied it. So yesterday I set up some rules where anything that says like, Eric Friesen posted an assignment on Google Classroom, that immediately goes in the trash, And anything that says like, anybody who turns something in late, it goes to this folder called late. And then later I can look at the late folder and, I don't care. And so I made some rules. So I'm in a much better place. YouTube, Google Classroom, emails, Group Me, Infinite Campus, and a Google Slideshow. Right here, so that we can talk about it, okay? Here, I got an email yesterday from the principal, and he said, great job on your first day. And he also said in that email, take care of the kids who are in your room and do what we can for the students at home. So right now, you guys are all that matters. Those kids that were here yesterday, they were all that mattered. You were nothing yesterday. So if you got something out of yesterday, bonus, okay? Because right now, I don't know. I'm doing a YouTube Live. That's all I can do. Because the other choice is what? The other choice is I teach you guys and I set up a completely asynchronous thing for you to do at home, which means you get 1 day of instruction a week pretty much, which is crazy. I mean, we're already at the point where we're going to see each other so few times. I have no idea how we're going to get through what we need to get through, but whatever. We're going to take care of ourselves in this room. I'm going to ask for participation. I'm going to talk a lot. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I think is the good part of school, which is engaging with students in the work. And we're going to try to have fun with that. And not fun. Well, fun and you guys think it's fun. You're nerds. All right. So we're going to try to do that. We good? Yeah. Now you got a short period of feedback. Is there something yesterday that you think I could fix that would have made yesterday different or better that doesn't involve me stopping the way society is structured right now?
No, I think it worked great. 'Cause I just have the slideshow open on another monitor, so
Mhm.
to play videos and stuff. I just sync them up and it worked awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the big issue, the videos you play here. So if you're trying to talk over a video that you're playing on the screen, that might not work
Okay.
well. Because I need to be able to watch the video separately from my screen for it to work
Yeah.
at all.
Okay. I heard that if I write on the board, you can see that if it's black and kind of big. So
Yeah.
I will sometimes write things on the board. Here's something I did differently though, is yesterday I set up 3 YouTube, that was what I was saying. I came in on the Liberty weekend to schedule my YouTube live broadcasts. So I came in on the weekend, got it all going, and they were supposed to turn on 10 minutes before the class with the links and everything. Well, this Google Chromebook that we just got has 2 cameras. And what happens is when it turns on, it automatically defaults to the camera above the number 7. So it's taking a picture of the screen. So I have to set them up and do it when I turn it on. So I have to turn on YouTube Live once. I'm sorry, I can't schedule it. I have to turn on YouTube Live because I have to turn on the right camera, which means I had to set up a period 1 stream right before period 1. And then between periods 1 and 3 yesterday, while everybody's leaving, I'm shuffling papers, I'm wiping down desks. I'm also welcoming you. I was setting up a YouTube stream, which I have to create, title, set restrictions on, and then publish. Then I have to copy the link, open Google Classroom, put it in Google Classroom, and post. I have to do all that between 1, 3, 5. So what I did today, and what you'll probably experience next week, is there's one YouTube live stream. I've been streaming since 7:30 this morning. It's the same stream. And it'll stream through all of my classes here. So when you go on, it'll say it might say the thing's already been going on for 2 hours, but it doesn't matter. If you're live, you're just live. If you're ever absent, you'll have to scroll to try to find when the class starts, which is going to be probably pretty hard to do. Maybe this would clue you in that it's the beginning of one of the periods. So that's how YouTube Live will be for a while. I'm not going to abandon YouTube Live yet because I don't know. I don't like Zoom. I'm not a Zoom fan. And I think Zoom takes more bandwidth, and I think it crashes. Although YouTube crashed last time in a world that's it's okay to be here, right? I don't know. Are we thinking it's okay?
Yeah.
This is your senior year. You only get one. But here's the deal. You're like, why did it have to be my senior year, right? Well, it's always a year. There's always something big going on in your life. Always. Every year of your entire life matters. And so I know this is a big one, but they're all a big one. Because every now and then people are like, oh my God, this was awful. It's like, yeah, but if you think back, there was another awful. There's always awful. Just,
Yeah.
okay? There's always awful. Okay. Speaking of that, good morning. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making English a part of your day. My name is Mr. Friesen. I'll be your teacher for the day. I have a poem to start things off. Now, later in the year, I'll say, here's a poem. And instead of saying fun at the end, I'll say, good, 40 minutes, go. And you have to write a thorough, thoughtful essay, which wows me. And that's how I'm going to. Here we go. Poem. This is by Ron Kirchie. He says how to pronounce his name. Ron Kirchie wrote a poem called, do you have any advice for those of us just starting out? And it goes just like this. Give up sitting dutifully at your desk. Leave your house or apartment. Go out into the world. It's all right to carry a notebook, but a cheap one is best with pages the color of weak tea, and on the front a kitten or a spaceship. Avoid any enclosed space where more than 3 people are wearing turtlenecks. Beware any snow-covered chalet with deer tracks across the muffled tennis courts. Not surprising, the libraries are a good place to write. And the perfect place in a library is near an aisle where a child a year or 2 old is playing as his mother browses the ranks of the dead. Often he will pull books from the bottom shelf. The title, the author's name, the brooding photo on the flap mean nothing. Red book on black, gray book on brown, he builds a tower. And the higher it gets, the wider he grins. You who ask for advice, listen. When the tower falls, be like that child. Laugh so loud, everybody in the world frowns and says, shh. And then start again. And you guys say? Today what we're going to do is I'm going to say a poem at the beginning. The agenda is really simple. We're going to watch a video today. There was a video last time about deconstructing time, maybe. I don't know if that worked. And then I've got a video today from a curator of horology. And then all we're going to do is talk about tinkers. We'll talk about chapter 2, chapter 1. We didn't even get to chapter 3 last hour, so I don't know if we'll get there. If you've already read, good. If not, what do you do? And then your homework. And your homework is basically going to be just keep reading tinkers. And, we'll just keep chipping away. Well, let me give you the papers that I gave out yesterday so I don't forget to do them. So you can always print this stuff out at home. Since you guys come in on a B-Day, sometimes I'll be handing you things I dealt with the day before if I think it's important you have them. I'm a huge paper person. And people are like, oh, you're killing trees. And I'm like, oh, just think of how much energy all of these computers take. Everything kills trees, okay? You understand that carbon is locked inside of either fossil fuels or plants. It's okay, okay? Nothing is ever created or destroyed. It just changes form. Okay? You're never going to save the planet. We might save ourselves, but whatever. There's paper number 1. Here's paper number 2. If you're at home right now, hey, how's it going? 7 of you, like and subscribe. You have these papers, okay?
I thought we were.
The first paper I gave you is how I'm going to score everything you write this year. And we're going to talk about it because bottom line is AP is a game. Now, this class is not a game because this class is talking about cool books and that stuff's all great. And if we can get you to read more analytically and write, in a way that's kind of more mature and polished, but also maybe a little more responsive to the on-demand nature of your existence. And if you can maybe just open your mind a little more, you guys, I think what age is it? It's like 22, your brain stops developing, It's really early in your life. So in theory, your brain can still get bigger, okay? But when you get to my age, all it is falling apart. So in theory, if you're doing some kind of mental push-ups, it's not half bad. And if all that stuff happens in this class, great. But as an added benefit, if you can also pass the AP exam at the end of the year, I know many of you have taken AP exams and passed them, but and I don't know if you're planning on going to college or if there will be college.
Good
You ever think about that? But AP exam is an expectation that you take the AP exam at the end of the year. And they will use this rubric. So the more we can be aware of how AP exams are graded, better off we'll be. But we're not going to do that right now. So we'll be talking about that rubric next week. Here's the fun part. I actually had to plan and make copies Monday, the day before school started, for stuff I'm going to be doing next week. Because if I want some of the students to have it, because they're at home a week later, it's just crazy. It's very different, very different approach. Then we're going to talk about the 2 handouts that I've given you today. Okay, so here we go. The agenda is this, curator of horology. We're going to talk about tinkers. And your homework's really simple, is I just want you to be through chapter 3 by next week. If you're already through chapter 3, cool. You have some time to revisit the text over the next several days. Or do nothing if you want. But then when you write the papers at the end, you'll still have to revisit the text. And it just depends on when you revisit the text. The night before the paper is due, you can spend that night writing the paper and reading the book again and thinking about the book. But if you've already done the thinking and reading again ahead of time, all you have to do is write the paper, okay? Because you have to reread parts of this book. There's just no way you can get through that. So anyway, comments, questions, we good? Okay, let's watch some TV. You can do whatever you want with your life, Tiger, okay? Anybody can be president. I didn't used to say that. When I used to teach Great Gatsby, and I'd say, look, Tom can be president. You can't be president because the Bushes are all related to the Kennedys, who are all part of this royal family in America. But now anybody can be president, okay? You can do whatever you want with your life. You could, if you wanted, you could become a curator of horology. So here is the British Museum, which is lovely. You could work for a museum as a curator of horology. And the British Museum produces this series where they talk to the different people who are in charge of different parts of or work in different parts of the British Museum, one of the great museums in the world, regardless of the theft that it engaged in the 1800s. But the British Museum are full of things that certain countries stole from other countries, during the imperial ages and whatever. But clocks are not that. So this fella, who, if I said, that's a guy that works on clocks in the British Museum, you'd be like, yeah, I can see that. I'm not sure what else that guy can do, Okay? And it's not based on how he looks. It's just based on his confidence standing there.
What's that on his glasses there?
Oh, you'll see. Okay. Anyway, so this guy is awesome. I love this guy. This guy will explain how clocks work. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a paper about imagery, okay? And maybe you're going to write a paper about a passage. And maybe the image you pick is clocks. And maybe you pick the passage you pick is about clocks. And you'll dig into it. Well, I guess the more we know about clocks, the better off we're going to be. So here's this guy talking about clocks, but we're going to move from this little thing right into a passage from Tinkers to get us rolling. Okay, so, and this is a series you can subscribe to on YouTube, which is basically Curator's Corner. Okay, okay, here we go. So here you go.
Hello, I'm Oliver Cook. I'm a curator of horology here at the British Museum, and welcome to my corner. Today I'm going to go through how a clock works, and to do this, I'm going to introduce you to this clock, which is a clock that's nearly entirely made of wood. It was made in 1688 in Davos in Switzerland. Now, to do this, we usually like to break it down into 5 elements: energy, wheels, escapement, controller, and indicator. 5 elements. So let us start with energy, our power source. A clock is a machine. All machines need a source of power. There is no such thing as perpetual energy. And in this case, this clock is driven by a weight. And when we hang the weight on the hook, the clock starts ticking. Now, weights are a very, very good source of energy. They are drawn down by the constant force of gravity. They provide a clock with a very constant supply of power, which is what a clock needs to be as accurate as possible. When we wind the clock, this is very simple. I'll plug on the counterweight. This is just there to keep things in place. This is what is powering the clock. And I've just put energy from my muscles, from my breakfast this morning, into that weight against gravity. And now it's trying to pull down, and that's how it's driving the clock. So that is our first element, energy. So our second element, wheels. Now wheels are what we horologists like to call gears. Most people call them gears or cogs, but what we're really referring to as wheels.
So you don't have to be a horologist to use that.
There,
good.
So that one wheel can drive another with no slippage. They can drive the next wheel very precisely. And what we have here, we actually have 2 mechanisms in this clock. This side of this central bar, we have what's called the going train, and that is responsible for the
That's in the
timing of the clock. Every clock and mechanical watch has a going train. And on the right-hand side here, we have the striking train.
That's in the book.
And that's a mechanism for sounding the bell. But let's talk about the going train first, the timekeeping side of things. So we've talked about our source of energy. That weight is pulling down on this cord, and it's trying to drive this pulley round. And that wheel there is in fact moving very, very slowly, and we can't see it. But the wheel it's meshing with, our second wheel in the train, you can see moving. And it's meshing just here at the top of the wheel with this very small wheel that we call a pinion, all made in wood. In this wheel of many teeth is driving this small wheel, this pinion, with not many teeth. So this pinion's got about 7 leaves on it, 7 teeth on it. This big wheel only has to move 7 teeth to send this wheel around a complete revolution. And that's what's happening here. We're accelerating the speed of this wheel. We can see it's moving quicker here, and the last wheel in our train, the escape wheel, which we'll come to next, is moving around visibly quicker again. And the reason we want to do that is because we want the weight to descend slowly. We want the clock to last for a sensible amount of time between windings.
Maybe I said this at the beginning, but the first line in the book is George Washington Crosby began to hallucinate 8 days before he died. The average time of a wound clock or a pulled clock, like a grandfather clock where you have a pulley system, is 8 days before you have to wind it again, because most people would wind their house clocks on like Saturdays and or Sundays, and then that would make it that it could be a weekly chore. So George is in effect, the time frame of his death is based on the amount of energy that can be held in a clock, for before it expires, if you know what I mean. Oh no! We don't want to do that. Oh no. Okay. You're fine.
Drawn down by the pinion, hitting the speed of this big wheel only has to move 7 teeth. In this wheel of many teeth, can just
right here, perfect.
The wheel with this very small wheel that we call a pinion.
Did we do that pinion part? Yeah. Okay, here we go.
In this wheel of many teeth is driving this small wheel, this pinion, with not many teeth. So this pinion's got about 7 leaves on it, 7 teeth on it. This big wheel only has to move 70 to send this wheel around a complete revolution. And that's what's happening here. We're accelerating the speed of this wheel. You can see it's moving quicker here. The last wheel in our train, the escape wheel, which will come to next,
Oh, yeah, we did
is
this.
moving around visibly quicker again. And the reason we want to do that is because we want the weight to descend slowly. We want the clock to last for a sensible amount of time between windings. Up at the business end of the clock, if you like, on our third element,
Here it is.
game and controller, our fourth element, things happen more quickly. This is just the nature of the laws of physics and Mother Nature. So we have to increase this speed, and this is why we have our wheels, our second element. And now we move on to element 3.
Element 3.
Escapement. Now the escapement is the tick-tock that you hear in the clock or mechanical watch. It's the beating heart of the clock, if you like. And what's happening here, vertically in here, we have a metal shaft. There is some metal in this clock. And on that shaft are 2 flag-like pieces, which we call pallets, and they're doing this. And so the teeth of the escape wheel, or the pins in this case, are alternately pushing these pallets one way than the other, one way than the other. And that's the tick-tock you hear, are those pins sliding off one face onto another. In horology, the louder that tick-tock, the worse, because that's the louder it is, the more energy is being wasted. And a good clock should have a quiet tick-tock, generally speaking. What's happening is this rotational motion of this last wheel in our train is being converted to an oscillatory motion, left, right, back and forth. And that is driving our fourth element, our controller. This is the brain of the clock of the escape, the beating heart.
All right, I'm gonna stop here. You can watch this on your own. You can even look at a next video for a minute. How to take a clock apart. Look at how exciting he looks in that little picture right there, okay? So the reason I'm doing this is I frequently go down and talk to Mr. Branch about the books I teach, because this video is about how a clock works. And the book Tinkers might be about how time works. And the funny part is, if you think about it, you know, what this guy was talking about with his, let's get rid of that. What this guy was talking about with his, the laws of physics of tensile strength and of gravity and of harnessed potential energy and kinetic energy and all that stuff. That stuff is about kind of how the natural laws of the universe work to create things like mechanics inside clock, which then we tie to what time is. And interestingly enough, on that video we showed last time, that's what Einstein tried to understand, was not how clocks work with things like E equals mc squared, which is energy, but ultimately how time works. So here's the one paper you're not allowed to write. In this class, you have to write an imagery paper, and you have to say that Paul Harding uses an image to develop a theme, okay? And you're going to pick one image and one theme. Now, the theme is going to be complex, and it's probably going to have some tensions. So, for example, you might say, I really want to get to the nature of truth. That's my theme. And you're like, I'm like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, in many ways, I believe that truth is actually the unity of false stories. And then I'd be like, okay. And I'm like, and what do you want to say about that? And you're going to say, well, ultimately, once I'm going to prove that truth is not fixed. I'm like, how do you know that? And you're like, because I looked at all the bugs in Tinkers. And I'm going to be like, what do you mean? It's just like somebody else will walk up to me and say, oh yeah, what did you write your paper about? Well, I wrote a paper about, I looked at all of the anatomical imagery in this book. Yeah. And that the anatomical imagery in Tinkers helps me understand the nature of time. And I'll be like, how? And that's what your paper is. So your paper is you saying, well, take a look at the blue vein in the third chapter. And I'll be like, oh, and then you're like, and then when we compound that to the reference to the ribs and guts on this page, I'm like, oh, and then you show me all of these anatomical images and how they made you come up with the idea that time is, that time is a paradox of movement. I'll be like, what? And that's why I'm interested in your paper. Here's the one paper you cannot write. Paul Harding, if I say Paul Harding uses images of fire to break down the concept of memory, you'd be like, mm-mm. Or somebody else says, Paul Harding uses images of architecture to discuss the nature of change. I'd be like, okay, I can see that. But if you say, Paul Harding uses images of clocks to discuss time, I'll be like, duh. Okay, so you can't do that paper. That's the one paper you can't write, is the clock images to time. But if you want to say, yeah, I want to look at all the clock images in this book, and I want to look at how clock images help us understand the nature of I don't know, of identity. I'm like, what do you mean? And that's your paper. So going from, but don't pick this right now. Just read the stupid book, okay? And look for images and think about the themes. And then next week you put it together. And then you type it up and you turn it in and you feel frustrated, okay? Because it's going to be a challenging paper for you to write. Here's what we're going to do though. This is what we have. So we're going to live in the world of the book. So if you guys could open up your hymnal today, and we're going to be on page, I believe, let's go to page 24 in your hymnal, because it ties in nicely to our good friend, the horologist. Okay, 24 in your book. Okay, yeah, and you guys sometimes will have to add 10, but not right now. 24 in your book, on the bottom of page 24. After Howard has had this really strange exchange with this woman about the soap being different and her unable to understand the nature that change can be constant, which is a good theme. Why don't I just write a bunch of themes on the board? This is a book about the nature of change. But oftentimes we look at themes in opposition because that creates tension. So constancy, so you have the woman saying that the new soap is different than the old soap. And Howard saying, no, the new soap is the old soap. It just has a different box and it works better. And it's like, well, then it's different. But no, it's the same. Well, can I have, and you have this funny little conversation on 24, which if you reread now, you'd be like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. I kind of understand Howard. I understand these Haggard Country Wives by now. Bottom of 24, George bought a broken clock at a tag sale, 1965. I guarantee you that's when this happened. Okay, the owner gave him a reprint of an 18th century repair manual. He began to poke around in the guts of the old clock. Now, if you see the guts there, that's anatomical imagery, right? So you have imagery there, which you could point out. As a machinist, he knew gear ratios, pistons, pinions, physics, the strength of materials, okay? That technique right there is called asyndeton. It's listing without conjunction. It creates this rapid fire list. I don't know if Mr. Webb taught you things like asyndeton and polysyndeton and all that stuff. I'll say those things all year long. Some of them will stick, some of them won't. Okay, it's okay. If you write a paper and you just say in this list of items, Paul Harding reveals the kind of procedural nature of the inventory, I guess, of expertise that one must have to possess. And you never use the word asyndeton. I'm happy with that. On the top of the next page, page 25, if you skip down to 5 lines before the top, from the top of 25, here is George in 1965 taking apart a clock. One of the major themes in this book is the idea of assembly. But I think assembly is an interesting idea, or construction. Because from these things, you also get the idea of reassembly and disassembly, or reconstruction and deconstruction. So the idea, this is a book about things that are built, things that are destroyed, and things that are built again on the second cycle around. Because in many ways, our trees outside are deconstructed every fall and reconstructed every spring in the cycle of time that we live in. So this is a book about the nature of, reassembly. And so somebody in here will say, what are you writing about? Oh, I'm writing about how insects teach us about the nature of reassembly. That sounds interesting because I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, that's why you write a paper. Okay, so on page 25, what's his name? George is going to be reassembling a disassembled clock. What's George doing in the real world right now? George is trying to assemble his life. He's trying to create an assessment of his life. He's given 8 days to do this, which is wonderful. If you go outside and fall down an open manhole and die, you have 0 time to put your life in order. But you're like, well, I'm only 17, not much of a life to put in order, right? But if you're like 80, like George, and you have a lot to do, wouldn't it be interesting if right now, Phantom Tollbooth, you started at the height you were and you grew down to the ground. What a wonderful idea, right? And you guys read Phantom Tollbooth? Oh my gosh, best book ever written, right? Rocks your world, maybe not, I don't know, great book, okay? But you're like, I could do that. But what if you were told at the beginning of your life you have this many days? I guarantee you there's a book out there, some dystopian novel where they tell you how long you'll live for, and then you go backwards. Is that like The Giver?
In time.
In time? Yeah, I don't know. I never read The Giver. You never read The Giver? You're an English teacher? Okay, but anyway, but if you knew, how would you live your life if you knew you have 17 more years to live? You're halfway done right now. What would you do? Would you be sitting here right now if you had 4 days to live? What would you do? And you're like, of course I would. This is why we're here, right? Friesen. But anyway, here we go. So George is now going to reassemble a disassembled clock. But what's George doing in bed right now? I think he's trying to reassemble his life because his life is disassembled. Now, at the beginning of the book, things started out assembled, right? His house was assembled. And what happened? He imagined his house disassembling around him. So this book is all about things breaking apart and things coming together. 5 lines from the top of 25. You want to fix a clock? Here's what you do. Lay the clock face down. Unscrew the screws, maybe just pull them from the cedar walnut case or the threads long since turned to wood and wood dust dusted from the mantles. Lift off the back of the clock like the lid of a treasure chest. Bring the long arm jeweler's lamp closer just over your shoulder. Now, if you were going to write about this passage, you would point out how, not just what this is about. What is this about? It's about taking apart a clock. That's fine. How is it written, and how it's written lead to larger ideas? So how's this thing written? Well, you could argue that it's written in sentences that are set in the imperative, right? They all start with verbs. Lay, unscrew, lift, bring, examine, look, poke, read, lift, lower, load, punch, file, fix, add. So most of this paragraph is an order. And who's it an order to? You. There's a hidden you. So even though George is the one in 1965 reassembling a clock, guess what? I'm going to teach you how to do this because this is a book about passing on from father to child what one knows about the world. So he's going to teach you how to do this. Matter of fact, you have the word over your shoulder. So there's this idea of laying the clock face down. What's that? Do clocks have faces? No. What has faces? You do. What is that technique called? Personification. So the first thing we do is we take an inanimate object like a clock and we make it a living object by giving it a face. Then it says, unscrew the screws, maybe just pull them from their cedar walnut case and blah, blah, blah. Lift off the back of the clock like the lid of a treasure chest. That's called a simile. So now Paul Harding has used declarative imperative structure, repetition. He's used the use of the second person. He's used similes. He's used personification. And what does a clock hold? I don't know, but it holds something of value. And why is it of value? Because we compare it to a treasure chest. What does this clock hold? What is the value hiding in this clock? That's a theme in this book is what is value? What do we value? Anyway, so then it says, bring the long-armed, another personification, jeweler's lamp closer, so there's a light image, to just over your shoulder. So now the you that was implied before the words lay, unscrew, lift, and bring, now the you that was implied is now brought to the forefront with the possessive pronoun second person, your. And now we have that intimacy where an arm comes in just over your shoulder. So this image of intimacy where we're going to peer in the dark light, in the lit dark, into something and figure out what treasure is there. This is a moment. This is a wonderful moment. And then it says, examine the dark brass. See the pinions gummed up with dirt and oil. Look at the blue and the green and the purple ripples of metal hammered, bent, torched, hammered, bent, torched. Those verbs in that quick succession there. That's called asyndeton again. Oh, by the way, look at that. If right now I walked in the room and I said, ripples, what immediately jumps in your head? Ripples, water. So we have this weird water image inside a clock. And if I said, oh, is there anywhere else in this book where we have blue and green and purple all rippling? You're not going to think of a clock. What are you going to think of? Those borealis sections, right? The auras around Howard. So now we have the borealis section in the color now brought into this moment inside this mechanical clock. We have the ethereal and abstract borealis into the hard world of metal and machines. Then it says, poke your finger into the clock. Super intimacy there. Fiddle the escape wheel. Escape wheel. Remember that guy in the video? Escape is one of the big themes in this book. You could argue that this whole book is about escape. What is George going to escape? This carriage that bears us on this planet, right? And here's one of the things this book is about, which is what lots of books, like the Bible, is about. What happens after you die? That's maybe one of the big questions of existence. It's what Hamlet's about. It's what the Iliad's about. It's what most books are about. Well, not most, but it's one of the big questions of the universe is what happens after you die. And after you escape, this mortal coil. He says, and then we have this parenthetical. Every part of the clock is perfectly named. Escape, the end of the machine, the place where energy leaks out, breaks free, and beats time. What is George doing right now? He's slowly leaking out. He's slowly breaking free as he beats time. See the parallel structure there? Do you see how we can even create a beat? Leaks out, breaks free, beats time. Okay, so we have noun or verb, noun, verb, noun, verb, noun. So, will George escape from life before he creates a final assembly of his life and a final assessment of his life? That's the dramatic question in this book. I don't want to give away the end. George may or may not die. He'll die. Okay, but will George succeed in assembling the fragmented existence that comes before him? Stick your nose closer. The metal smells tannic. Read the names etched into the works. Ezra Bloxam, 1794. George E. Tiggs, 1832. Thomas Flackhart, 1912. Lift the darkened wood from the case, lower them into ammonia, lift them out, nose burning, eyes watering. Ooh, isn't that fun? We got the burning and the watering. We got fire and water coming together. How many times has that done that? We're going to read a passage today about Haggard Country Wives. It's all about ice and water. We have Howard in the cold of his basement coming into contact with the power of their Howard, Daddy coming home muddy, wet at the end of chapter 1, then restoking the fire. So many water and fire images coming together. By the way, you hate chemistry class because in chemistry class, how many elements are there? A lot. Good answer. Okay. In English class, how many elements are there? There are only 4 elements in English class. We talk about elemental imagery in English class. It's only earth, air, fire, and water. Okay, it's like Doodle God. You put those 4 things together, and everything comes together. Okay. Anyway, so we have the burning eyes and the watering, burning nose and the watering eyes, and you left them shine. This is something amazing. We've opened this treasure, and we've seen something and heard something and smelled something, and our eyes water. And we've seen what? We've seen something beyond the capacity of humans to understand. As opposed, oh, there's gears in there, right? And then you see them shine and star through their tears. Cosmic imagery there. So in the very small micro, we see the macro. We see the stars and we see something that causes us to lift our head, file the teeth, punch the bushings, load the springs, fix the clock, add your name. One of the themes in this book is legacy, how we fit into the great chain of being, the human existence that's come before and after us. Maybe one way you add your name, it's kind of hard to figure out the names in this book. Like, what is George's wife's name? You know, what is George's daughter's son's name? And which one had Sam? And which one had Charlie? I gave you a little list of all the time. I figured out like maybe time in the book, and I did the vignettes. I also have done that with people. I've created all the family trees, I think, but I have to piece it together. Now, how simple is it to add your name this way, right? Ezra, 1794. George, 1832. Thomas, 1912. And then we're going to add George Washington Crosby, 1965. So now you are a part of legacy. And guess what happens? One of the themes of this book, obviously, is death and mortality. But if we think in the world of opposition, the foot book, right? Left foot, right foot. Did we already do this in this class? Feet in the day, feet in the wet foot, low foot, back feet. Feet. How many different feet can you meet? Slow feet. Well feet. Up feet. Here come clown feet. Okay? Change feet. Constancy feet. Deconstruction feet. Construction feet. Escapee feet. Trapped feet. Mortality feet. No. Mortality means the same thing. Alive feet, or what do we do to negate things? Often we just place words like dis or d, or possible feet. What do we do in front of that to make it the opposite? Impossible feet. So what do we put in front of im? Maybe the opposite of being mortal is not being alive, but maybe the opposite of being mortal is being immortal. And what is legacy? Legacy is something which makes us think maybe time is infinite. Because guess what? Maybe you can live forever. And maybe you can live forever by putting your name in a clock that never goes away. I told you the 3 times you die thing, right? Yeah. So the idea is, how do you remain alive? Well, guess what? Is Howard alive right now? I don't know. To George, is he alive right now? Absolutely. George is in a coma right now.
Yeah.
And his father, absolutely alive. And if George sees it, hears it, tastes it, smells it, feels it, and believes it, is it true? Empiricism would tell us that truth is based on our senses. And if our senses are activated in our minds, and our eyes can be closed, yet we can still see, and our ears can be closed and we can still hear, is Howard alive? And is Howard immortal? And will he be immortal as long as his name is on this legacy? Add your name. So that's, and then right below it on 25, tinker, tinker, tin, tin, tin. Let's do this real quick. So now one of the things we're going to look at in this book is the idea of escape as it's coming. And you're going to see escapement come up in this book over and over. Now I've told you to watch for escape. It'll be everywhere in this book. Anyway, page 25 near the bottom. Let's do this other vignette while we're at it. Tinker, tinker, tin, 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 tinambulation. We got a lot of repetition of the T sound there. Some people would call that alliteration. You might also call it onomatopoeia, as we're trying to use a word to activate our ears. Tinker, tinker, tin, 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 tinambulation, T, T, T. Certain sounds you want to pay attention to, whether we're reading books or poetry. T's are interesting sounds. Everybody do a T, 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 tin, tin, tin. T's, P's, B's, K's. They all have something in common. They require you to stop the flow of air through your mouth in order to produce them. Okay? So everybody do T and tell me exactly what happens in your mouth. T. What exactly happens in your mouth to create the sound T? Your tongue goes to the top of your mouth where? T. It's against the back of your front top teeth, correct? T. And what happens is you slowly build up a breath behind that, and then you let the breath escape as you drop your tongue. Is that correct? Now do a K. K. Cackle. How do you also stop the breath in your mouth when you do K. But how do you do that? K. What happens to your tongue? Your tongue goes wide. K, right? Across the back of your palate, perhaps. K. And then it comes a little more from your throat, doesn't it? K. And T. T is precise on the tips of your teeth, where K is much more back in your kind of throat. P. How do you make a P? P. You push against the pouty permanence of your parched lips, right? And you let the sound go forth. My youngest daughter couldn't say the letter L. Okay? She used to say yeah when she was a little kid. You said yeah? So you talked about the yayin. You just the story with the yayin. You know, I'd be like, what color is the yayin? And she'd be like, yellow. And I'm like, exactly. And what is yellow? And she'd like the yayin. I'm like, it's a lion. Okay? And I say, now there is a yellow lemon. She's like, yeah, the yellow lemon. And I'm like, no. And so we would literally have to say to her, no. How do you say a yeah sound? And how do you say an L sound? Everybody make an L sound. Lemon. What do you have to do for lemon? Lemon. How's that different than a T then? If your tongue's in the exact same place. T, lemon. Okay? And also L is allowing the sound, L is allowing the air to pass through. L is not a permanent full stop sound. So we would literally say, okay, place your tongue in the back of your teeth. And I'd be like, now take your T and then say the L sound by keep your tongue in the back of your top teeth, right? And then we go like and she go, then we go like yeah, and she go, then we go lie and she go yayin. No, okay. And we go potty and we're like, look at your pee, it's yellow, and she goes yayo, and I'm like no, okay. So we sent her off to a professional. She's fine now. But anyway, but what I want to point out is this line thing. Later in the year, you're going to talk about sounds. Tinker, tinker, tin, tin, tinambulation. What are we getting there? We're getting this. T. Why would we possibly want that sound? Because that's what Howard's doing. He's hitting, metal on pots. The pots are shaking in the wagon as it goes down the field, and we are being brought auditorially into the story. But what also goes? This clock. And what is the T? We learned that from the video. The sound of a clock, the tick-tock of the clock. This, you guys saw the horologist dance, the palace that he did there, okay? You have the horologist dance. But what is exactly is the escape wheel? He told you, ready? All of the gears, the potential energy stored in nature, whether it's fossil fuels or paper that made of carbon that will burn, okay? Or in your muscles from breakfast, the potential energy becomes stored. And it becomes, now, what am I describing? What happens in the clock is the energy gets stored and stored and stored and stored, and bam, in a fraction of a second it releases. Can you think of anything else in this book that builds and builds and builds and builds and bam, it releases? It's the seizures. So Howard is a clock, right? Because he is harnessing the potential energy of the universe, in my opinion, just like a clock does. And then he unhitches in a given moment and he becomes unsprung, unhinged, unassembled, and he goes crazy, okay? What's George doing on his bed right now? The potential, the energy of his life is building, 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 and building until what? You die. So what we all know the tick of death, but we don't know the talk of death. You know, we have tick, tock, and we have this tin, tin. Some people would say that's our heartbeat. That's why clocks are soothing, right? Because our hearts go bum, bum, because they have a filling of pressure and a release, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. That's why they say Shakespeare is so wonderful, because he writes in iambic pentameter, which models perhaps the sound we all heard in the womb, unless you're a test tube child. Can you be a test tube child? Okay. Two house holds both all life. Some people will say that that's why Shakespeare's so pleasant, is because he writes in the sound that we are all imbued with before birth, the ticking of our hearts, the sound of our mother's heartbeat, whatever. Unless you were born in a test tube or raised in a test tube. Bottom of page 25. Tinker, tinker, tin, 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 tinambulation. There was a ring of pots and buckets. There was also a ring in Howard Crosby's ear. Now, there's rings in his ears sometimes, and there's hums in his ears. He has tinnitus right now. But bottom line is, this tension is building. A ring that began as a top of 26 at a distance and came closer until it sat in his eyes. I'm just checking. I'm trying really hard to keep track of people at home are lost. Okay. Until it sat in his eyes and then burrowed into them. So if you were analyzing this, you would probably point out the verb sat and burrowed, right? As being these interesting ideas that a sound can then become animated. That's not personification. Personification is turning something into a person. But animism or animation, which sounds more like Beauty and the Beast, that's like turning something into a creature. It's metaphorical and analogous language. But the bottom line is, this ring is sitting in his ears and burrowing into him. His head thrummed, simile, as if it were a clapper in a bell. So he's like turning into a clock. Cold hopped, there's more animism there, onto the tips of his toes and rode on the ripples. You guys see the parallel structure there with alliteration? The tips of his toes and rolled on the ripples and the ringing throughout his body until his teeth clattered and his knees faltered and he had to hug himself to keep from unraveling. This was his aura. A cold halo of chemical electricity that encircled him immediately before he was struck by a full seizure. Howard had epilepsy. A lot of times Harding does this. He writes in kind of this crazy figurative way, and then he'll arrive at this really clear sentence. Okay? Howard had epilepsy. Okay? Now you could start the paragraph that way. Howard had epilepsy. He would hear, but what do we do is we arrive at clarity after obfuscation. We get there. But we don't say that Howard has epilepsy. We say that he has a cold halo, that he is encircled, that he's hugging himself. Look at all those circles. He is encircled. He's literally circling himself. He has a halo. And of course, you're like, Gilbert had a halo. Remember? Gilbert out in the woods had a circumscripet of flies around him. And maybe Gilbert was immortal. Because if you do the math with Nathaniel Hawthorne and you realize that Gilbert was 130 years old and he lived outside of time, you're like, who is this guy in the woods that lives outside of time? Because he's a liar. Because this is a story about truth. And truth's connection to story, and whether his story becomes history because it becomes true, and is Gilbert's story true because he has a name and a date on a book which was published in a given year, and that makes him 120, which makes his lie true, which makes it an impossible truth. Anyway, Howard had epilepsy. That's clear. His wife, formerly Kathleen Black of the Quebec Blacks, but from a reduced and stern branch as one of the family, cleared aside chairs and tables and led him to the middle of the kitchen floor. She wrapped a stick of pine as two in the napkin for him to bite on so he would not swallow or chew off his tongue. If the fit came fast, she crammed a bare stick as three between his teeth So he would wake to a mouthful of splintered is 4, wood is 5, and taste the sap is 6, his head feeling like a glass jar full of old keys and rusty screws. I counted 6 what? Images of trees or wood or nature, right? So at the moment that Howard is having this epilepsy, which he's going to have on page, or this seizure, which he's going to have on page 96, we're first hinted at it on page 26. We have all of these images of trees. If you're going to write a paper on all the trees in the book, that's awesome. But you're never going to prove that trees are in the book, that Howard spends time in the woods. You're going to say that Paul Harding uses trees. You're going to write not about how characters interact with images, but how the author interacts with them. So when you look at those 6 images of trees at the bottom of, or on page 26, you're going to look at maybe the word stern, or the word splintered, or the idea of it being, that the stick of pine is ultimately ingested. I don't want to tell you what's going to happen in this book, but in this book, people become trees. You're like, what? But then you remember when George got the medication and it made his legs swell up and his wife touched his legs in bed and she said, my husband, the table. And people are going to become trees. And on literal hand, you're like, why do people become trees? Because they don't become trees. Because the trees are a image that the author is using perhaps to break down and talk about the unity. Because unity is what exists between opposites. We have the world that is natural in this book, and we have the world that is man-made. Okay? And those two things, they are opposites. They couldn't be more different. Left foot, right, natural foot, synthetic foot, right? And we have man-made foot and non-man-made foot, okay? But in many ways, if we go back to our physics room, we understand that opposites in nature are actually attractive forces and they come together. And so in many ways, those things come together. So that when we look at a clock that's full of gears and knobs, it's also full of guts and faces. And in this scene, when Howard feels like he has a taste of wood and taste of sap in his mouth, right after that, the taste? Did you notice how all of our senses got involved? What we hear, smell, taste, feel, and touch in this moment of epilepsy is a pure sensory moment. Did you guys read Brave New World? No. They go see the feelies. The movies activate all of your senses, right? Because you see them, you smell it, you taste it, you feel it, whatever. But that last simile, that even though he's in this completely natural place where he's in one with the universe, and we see that in the Borealis sections, his head feels like a glass full of old keys and rusty screws. Could there be anything more oppositional to nature than a glass full of old keys and rusty screws? Can't you hear that right now? Can't you hear just how oppositional that is to the hum of the natural world, the bees, the moons of the world? So here's what we're going to do today. That was all by way of intro. We're going to look at the day that Howard has a seizure. So we went to chapter 2 a little bit last time, but we're going to go a little more. So if you guys could go to page 92 in your hymnal. On page 92 is one of the most important vignettes of the book in terms of the plot. Okay? And we're going to look at this together. And I don't want to do all the talking today. So I'm going to let you guys talk to the smart kids next to you because there's a wealth of knowledge in here. But on page 92, we have the 5th vignette of the 2nd chapter. And this is the seizure chapter. Now, Howard has lots of seizures in this book. He had a seizure out in the woods in chapter 1 in that fugue state, and he came home muddy. But this is the first time that he has a seizure in front of his children. So here we go, page 92. George experienced all but one of his. Did we talk about the Crosbys in this class? If you see, you should have laughed on the bottom of 91 and the top of 92, where Howard has this idea. He's like, I got it. I'm going to take my wagon. I'm going to pull out the drawers. I'm going to put in beehives. I'm going to travel around. The bees will follow me, and they will live in the wagon, and I will have created like this mobile hive because all of the drawers will be like a hive, and inside the hive are the hives, and we'll have the patterns of nature inside my pattern, and we'll move through the cycles of seasons. We'll visit people. We'll sell them honey, and we'll call it the Crosbys. You know, and he magnificent Crosbys. The magnificent Crosbys, and that's where we're going to get. That's your purpose in life. You know, you guys all are going to go to college next year. No. Here's what I'm going to do. You know, you come up with this plan, you know, and come up with what you're going to call it. Sell it on Shark Tank. Sell it to your parents. And he gets all excited. And then, of course, instead what happens is winter came, he puts the wagon away, and stray cats nest with mice and frozen truth. Anyway, page 92. George experienced all but one of his father's seizures as rumors. He would find his mother leaning over the rumpled, shaken father in a chair. See, his father becomes disassembled. And it says, there was a spit in his father's hair and blood on his chin. His father sat snorting rapid breaths through his nose, looking first at the palms of his hands, then at their backs as he clenched and unclenched them the way a soldier might after a bomb had detonated in his trench. And he was shocked to find himself still alive and possibly unharmed. George came to understand that this was because his father could tell when the fits were coming and always managed to be, with the help of George's mother, to get to a part of the house or the yard where the children were absent so that they would not have to see him in the throes of a seizure. If one of the children happened along, Kathleen would say in a quiet voice, you just go right back where you came from. Father and I are busy. The one time he and his brothers and sisters had watched their father have a grand mal seizure was at Christmas dinner 1926. That's another one of those super clear sentences. In a book that wanders, in a book that is scattered, it is a mosaic that shifts. You can't get any more clear that on 12/25/1926, during dinner, that's exactly where we are. This is a clear marker in time. And this moment is huge. Why does it need to be Christmas dinner? This is a book that starts George Washington Crosby. This is a book with allusions to time everywhere. They have references to Betsy Ross and to Napoleon Bonaparte and Lady Godiva. And now we have a reference to maybe this really interesting thing, because guess what this is? Christmas was the start of time, wasn't it? BC, CE, whatever. I don't even know those things. AD. Okay. But bottom line is we have this moment where we have this reset moment. Comments, questions? Tell me your names. They said go around the room. Tell me your names. I know who you are, but I'm going to mark them down. First and last. Thank you. And
Roy Kumar.
thank you, and thank you. Hold on. Roy Kumar, Zach Martin, and what? Evan Wood, and
Ashley Wynn.
yeah. And
Zach Mahalik.
and
Katie Wicks.
Katie Wicks, and
Annie Barrows.
Annie Barrows, and
Sarah Rockland.
Barry Rockland, and
Alex Hoffman.
I have to take attendance every day. They get paid by the student. Hi. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Okay? And India, Rocky, and Grace Maxwell, and Amaya. Thank you. Nobody else is here. Sweet. I'm going to read a little more. That's enough of me talking. You guys want to talk? I want you to, as I read, if you're thinking something, put a little mark by it, so that when I say turn to the smart kid next to you and talk about what you noticed, you have something to say. Here we go. Top of page 93. Oh, you know, we're not going to read this page because it's a little much. This on page 93, we basically have a description of the Christmas dinner. And it couldn't be more Rockwellian. It couldn't be this more perfect portrait of Americana. We have the glazed ham with sugar and molasses. We have the family gathered around the meal that the mother has cooked. We have Buddy the dog and Russell the cat. And we have George sitting next to his brother, and everyone smelling the sweet fragrance of the ham and being mesmerized at this moment for admiration. This is a moment of awe. And then Father stands up in this incredibly, traditional patriarchal role, standing up at the ham with the knife, and he begins to cut the ham. Okay, on the top of 94, says, Howard cut the slices thinner. This has to last us a week since you saw fit to blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now they're eating, and now I'm going to read. I'm going to read about a page, and then I'm going to have you turn to the smart kid next to you and talk about what did you notice. So now we're eating. This moment of family and unity and everything is okay. First new paragraph on 94. Howard lifted a daub of potato with his fork. Then he speared 2 string beans, then a piece of ham. He raised the food to his mouth, but stopped before he took the bite. The muscles at the hinges of his jaws flexed. He gasped. His eyelids fluttered. His eyes rolled in their sockets. The fork and food dropped from his hand and cluttered onto the plate. Mummy, Howard scrambled his legs, trying to get up, but he only twisted in the chair, which corkscrewed out from under him. He dropped to the floor, striking his head on the seat of the chair next to him as he fell. Kathleen barked at Margie, "Get your brother out of here," and seemed to shove her 3 youngest children, who'd already huddled together in a trembling knot, near the door out of the room with a single shove. She rounded the corner of the table and stuck her hand out at George, who still sat at his seat, dumbly holding a fork straight up in the air. His mouth was wide open. "George, give me a spoon." George looked at his mother. "George, the spoon," she said, not angry or loud or bitter, as usual, but almost gently. He dropped his fork and yanked the spoon out of the potatoes. He said, Kathleen said, "Give me the spoon, George." She snatched the spoon from George's hand and pounced on her husband, straddling his chest. Howard grunted, and Kathleen jammed the spoon crosswise into his mouth like a bit so that he would not bite his own tongue off. Howard bit down on the spoon, and George watched as his father's lips curled back from his teeth, thinking, "Like a skull's, not a man's, not daddy's." "George, get here and hold the spoon, like this." George was terrified of sitting on his father's chest. "Use 2 hands. Lean on it. Don't let his head bang." George felt his father's quaking beneath him and was sure that it was going to rend himself apart, and his father was going to split open. "Mom, I'm getting a stick." Kathleen ran out of the room, and George heard her crash into the kitchen table, sending pots and pans clattering across the floor. She groaned and came back with a fresh piece of kindling. George had split that morning. Just as she reached George and Howard, the spoon handle split in Howard's mouth, and George fell forward onto his father's face. George tried to catch himself, but his hand slid on a pool of greasy, dark blood collecting on the floor under his father's head. He pushed himself back up with the heels of his hands and saw that his father had opened his mouth and that he was about to swallow half the spoon handle. George stuck his fingers into Howard's mouth to get the spoon, and Howard bit down onto them. George gasped. He saw his fingers clenched in his father's bloody teeth. I'm going to stop right there. Talk to the smart kid next to you. Just about what'd you notice? We know what it's about. How is it written? And why is it resonating with things? Oh my God, we're almost done. Oh, I shouldn't have talked to you guys about all these things.
Yeah, you know, my sort of dog. Where was it? It's like his lips go back. I kind of like. Well, you said that. Yeah, I think he like yeah, like Captain Margie. The whole thing is like
I know that.
George is
Something like bites down,
that was and I sometimes like hard scrambled and then he's trying especially it's kind of like he's on I don't know, kind of talking about
Come up with one thing to say when I call on you. It doesn't have to be long. It can be very short. If you have to use one of these lines in a paper you're writing, what are you going to quote from? I'm going to quote from halfway down 85. Use 2 hands, lean on it, don't let his head bang. It's the same procedural language that we had on page 25 of taking apart the clock. That procedural way to help something that's unassembled, reassemble. Go. Give me a line you like. Tate.
The idea of like the splitting out of his skull.
Okay, so we always start with text. So that's on page 95, and there's 3 word splits in pretty quick succession on the back half. So why do you like this?
He's going to rend himself apart, and then his father's going to split open. It
Mhm.
almost makes him seem like there's something trapped inside that's
Mhm.
fighting for a release.
Nice job. And we split kindling, but his father is doing the splitting kind of, so the split coming from the outside to the inside. Nice moment there, Alex.
I also went with the split, how it connects him to the wood and to the wooden spoon.
Yep,
And how
page
it
six-
connects him to
26.
the rest of the wood imagery and the cycles of regrowth and destruction.
Rockstar, next. What else are you going to quote in your paper? It could be a word, a line, a phrase. Ashley.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a machine breaking down.
Where?
So on page 94, it says like the muscles of his jaws flex.
Nice.
And then it says the cork screwed out from under him.
Yep.
And then going back to what Kate was saying on page 95, it's split open.
Yep. So a lot of those, the nouns like hinges, and then the verbs like flexed and corkscrewed. Though you can picture a corkscrew being present in a clock, obviously. Nice. And give me another thing. What's another thing we're going to quote? Hi, Andy.
You could use the words like bear trap, bite, pounce. All of those are kind of
Yep.
animalistic, and they almost like, especially when it says not a man's. All of those words kind of are indicative of something that's not human.
Right. Very nice.
You need to get into that.
So here's how time works. Time stinks in terms of like, I talked to you stories about like Stephanie and Crystal, and I wrecked time because we can't finish this all important passage right now, you know? Okay, so you guys are out of here. Let me explain one thing to you though, because aren't you out of here at 18? Yeah, we're almost there. The pieces of paper I gave you, let me draw this real quick. We do need to talk about these, but I already talked about these with my smart class, which is period 1, okay? So you guys are behind. And so we have to talk about these 2 pieces of paper, but my guess is, hi, like and subscribe. We're gonna talk about these on Monday of next week. So unfortunately, we'll be there for you guys, because this is your assignment. You're gonna have to do a question 2. So I'm giving you question 2s as a way of looking at how you're gonna pull text out. So we're gonna do this next week. If you've not done your, not read chapter 3, please read chapter 3. And on the slideshow, all it says is read chapter 3, continue looking for images, look for a passage that you think you could dig into, you know, and enjoy your time. Because it's just weird. We won't be here again until next Monday.
It's
And
just-
then it's just strange.
Almost.
You're going to totally forget about this class, and then all of a sudden it's here, and it'll be gone again. Which class have you not had yet? What are you going to do tomorrow on your silver day?
Yeah.
Psych? AP Psych. And then you do a lot of psych for 2 days, and then you won't do psych again for a full week. It's crazy. Well, I'm glad you're here. I hope that you have a good day. Don't smoke. Move one way in the halls. If you have a problem, email me. Don't let your parents email me. I have no desire to speak to your parents, even if they work here.
I might go visit my home.
Bye.
Forget. Thanks, David.
Annie Barrows.
Thank you.
Bye. Say something on GroupMe about just, I don't want to do a Zoom. It was so awful yesterday, okay?
That was a
So
bad
just
part.
say, start class, like, note who's here and go immediately into class in whatever format you want, okay? We're not doing the group Zoom because it was so stupid.
Yeah, that was just a
Zoom-
bad
It was just
time.
dumb, okay?
Yeah, for sure. And I felt bad for the kids who were there. I felt like it was
Oh,
not
we were
helpful to
standing
them.
in this weird echo chamber, like we could barely hear.
Yeah.
It was just terrible.
Horrible. Thank you, Friesen.
Thank you. Hello. Well, you can come in, set your stuff down, but we can't sit down for 5 minutes while these things do their disinfecting. But you should probably take a lap though, don't you think? Get some energy out. You can leave your stuff if you want, if you don't want to carry it, it's up to you. But you should wander. Get some blood moving, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So. Welcome, thanks. You guys can sit anywhere. The desks might still be a little wet because they're disinfecting. Please do a squirt of the hand sanitizer as you come in. Thanks. One little squirt, just like you've been doing for months, right? Here we go, here we go. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. Got it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, yep, that's me. YouTube Live in it right there. Awesome.
I know, I ordered.
What is this, third hour? Isn't that exciting? Oh, boy. What's up?
We will back up. It's just another right back.
Okay, here we go. I think we're gonna have Bell. Super exciting. There we go. This is here. Care about this. I think. Oh my gosh, it's school. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making English part of your day. You're back. Yay. Here's hand sanitize, man. These things could have happened. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making English part of your day. Look at that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 in the hall. That's about who's supposed to be here. My name is Mr. Friesen. I'll be your teacher for the day. I'm super glad you're here. I start class the same way every single day, so I have to get rolling. I don't know how you start things in your life, when I get up in the morning, you have a certain order of operations, socks and shoes, whatever. Whenever I have students send me videos, it's kind of fun to listen to the very first thing they say on the video. Like right now I said, record yourself telling me what you thought about, last weekend. What's the first thing you'd say? Hi. A lot of students say, okay, at the beginning they say, okay. It's interesting how you. Good morning. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making English part of your day. My name is Mr. Friesen. I'll be your teacher for the day. I say that to start every class because it's how we begin. I have a poem to start things off. Hello. What is this? This is this. Boom. The poem is by Ryan Kirchie, and it goes just like this. Do you have any advice for those of us just starting out? Give up sitting dutifully at your desk. Leave your house or apartment. Go out into the world. It's all right to carry a notebook, but a cheap one is best, with pages the color of weak tea, and on the front a kitten or a spaceship. Avoid any enclosed space where more than 3 people are wearing turtlenecks. Beware any snow-covered chalet with deer tracks across the muffled tennis courts. Not surprisingly, libraries are a good place to write, and the perfect place in a library is near an aisle where a child a year or 2 old is playing as his mother browses the ranks of the dead. Often he will pull books from the bottom shelf. The title, the author's name, the brooding photo on the flap mean nothing. Red book on black, gray book on brown, he builds a tower. And the higher it gets, the wider he grins. You who asked for advice, listen. When the tower falls, be like that child. Laugh so loud, everybody in the world frowns and says, shh. Then start again. And you guys say, sweet. Later in the year, of course, you'll have to read a poem and then you'll have to write this big essay on it. But right now, we just sound smart, right? Thanks for being here. I'm really glad you're here. School is crazy, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how crazy school is in just a minute. But the first thing I need to do is take attendance. And the way we're going to do that is we'll just go around the room. We'll start here, and we'll just go across and just kind of say your name and say your first and last name, because I have 33 names here, and some of them are, I have to code you as like period, home day or school day or remote or whatever, or dropped or whatever. So just if you could throw your name, and then I'll welcome you to the class. By the way, if you're at home right now, 11 people are at home. Like and subscribe, okay? Thank you so much. We're on YouTube Live right here, which you may be aware of from yesterday. going to tell you a little bit about YouTube Live in a second. For those of you on YouTube Live, I'll be talking to you in a second. All right, hit it.
Robert.
Thank you. Welcome, Robert. Allison what? Brodus. Allison Brodus. Thank you so much. Welcome. Yay. Dane Peoples. Thank you. Ty Veely. Thank you. Welcome. Joe Perus. Thank you so much. Yay. Caleb Wright. Thank you so much. Boom. Mika what? Mijares. Oh yeah, Nika Mijares. Okay. Thank you so much. Rockstar. Masery McDonald. It's kind of weird because I'm kind of meeting my class for the first time today. It's kind of weird. And I'm meeting you with a mask covering half your face. You know, this is artificial. It's weird. I don't know if it's good. I don't know what we do with this. Hopefully you'll live a long life. And at some point you'll sit next to somebody and say, oh, remember that one year where we all wore masks and we thought the world was ending and it didn't, you know, unless it does. Ellie Crowfoot, welcome. Thanks so much. Molly Stutz, welcome. Thanks so much. Abby Texera. And thank you so much. DJ VL. And I've been seeing you guys on emails and on like Zoom things, some faces, some no faces. I mean, this is really wild for me. And you know what? I'm good at names with like a seating chart when I see you every day. But after today, we won't see each other for 6 days. And then we won't see each other for 7 days, you know? So it's going to be as good as it can be. Yeah. I don't know. Hi. Grace Miller. Thank you. And Brendan Trujillo. Nice. Okay. So I have you here. If you're at home, like and subscribe. Here's the way it works, kind of. And I need some feedback from you because you guys have had a day and a half of school to kind of figure this out. Not figure it out, but to experience it. I'm only experiencing school from my position. I've taught here. I think this is I think I'm starting my 25th year here, maybe 24th. I don't remember. I've taught in this very room for like 16 or 17 years with the windows and the book room. And I've painted it 3 times. We got new carpet this year. Isn't this nice? We got a nice building, kind of. Get tripped out by that main hall, not having the gym hall anymore. That's just weird. And but it's not real school. It's kind of awful, and I'm sorry. My job here is to make things as positive as possible for you because I don't want to hate every day of my job. I will say yesterday was one of the 5 worst days of teaching in my entire career, hands down. And that's worse than like my first day teaching middle school health, which I did on my very first year as a 25-year-old. You want to have a good day? Teach health to 8th graders. You guys take health as an 8th grader? Okay. And I'm an English teacher. This has been a challenge. So let me tell you what I'm doing, and then I want to hear about what you're doing. And I need to hear from you a little bit to hear your experience to see if I can make it better. I stand here, kind of, and I talk into a YouTube live stream. So the YouTube live stream is on this computer right here. And, you know, you guys can wave at the screen if you want. You can wave to everybody at home. Some good waving. Good. And I have no idea who's on or who's off. I can see. It looks like I have 15 viewers right now, but that's meaningless. I have 5 likes. Okay. Like and subscribe. I read online last night. I think if I get 1,000 subscribers, I can start to monetize this, make a little money. I have 159 students. So if you all subscribe, you can all get like a parent or aunt or uncle to subscribe and maybe one friend. Okay, this could become a little more lucrative for me. I also am setting up a Patreon account where you can donate. Okay, we'll get some ads on there. Okay, it'll be nice. I have no idea what this YouTube Live does except for this. I came in over the weekend for 7 hours over Labor Day weekend to prepare 1 day's lesson. And that 1 day's lesson is yesterday and today. That's kind of sucked out into 2 days because it's weird because you're home than here or here than home. Took me 7 hours to kind of prepare like my slides and my handouts and all this stuff. And then I scheduled 3 YouTube live videos because I teach first hour and third hour and fifth hour. And I knew that between first and third, I would be trying to reset my slideshow, erase my board, sanitize the desk, do whatever, heaven forbid I need to pee. And And so I had that all ready to go. And then yesterday at the beginning of the day, my YouTube live stream is set to turn on. And our new little Chromebooks, you guys have terrible Chromebooks, don't you? Oh my God, they're so bad. We got new Chromebooks as teachers this year. They're a touch screen. And they've got a camera here and a camera here. So what happens is when you turn on YouTube Live, it automatically disengages this camera right here. And it engages the camera above the number 7, which means it's shooting the ceiling. And so you set it to, you change it, and then it's good. But when you schedule a YouTube Live, it automatically reverts to what it calls the back camera, and it shoots the ceiling. So all of my YouTube Live streams that I'd set up, and to set up a YouTube Live stream is not a big deal. I have to go on YouTube Live. I have to create a stream. I have to name it. I have to set restrictions on it. I have to change the camera. I have to say what age it's for. I have to then schedule it for a certain time. I have to grab the link, and then I have to go into Google Classroom. I have to open up period 1. I have to open up session 7. I have to open up today, and I have to post the link. That's what I had to do for every Zoom. So I did that over the weekend. So then I get here on Monday or on Tuesday, and the YouTube live stream doesn't work. So then I had to create a YouTube live stream every period between periods and do all that. So what I did today, which you're not experiencing, is I started one YouTube live stream this morning, like at the beginning of school, and it's been running all day. So like right now it's in hour 3.5. So when you're at home next, what is it, Monday? There in theory will be a YouTube live stream for you, and you'll be joining the 3rd hour of something. If you're ever absent and you have to find what we did, you're going to have to like scrub forward or backward in the video to get where it's at. And then you can put me on double speed if you want. Okay. So I have a YouTube live video right here. I don't believe you can chat on the YouTube live video. I thought you could, but I don't believe you have the rights to undo the restricted access that Jeffco has placed on your computer if you're using your Chromebook. That's what I think you're at. But then a lot of students are saying if you just sign out and sign into a different account, you can comment. If you're at home and you comment, I can see it right here instantly. So if you have a question, that's one way I will receive a question from you at home. My second monitor, I have Google Classroom on right now for this class. And if you comment, in theory, I see a little thing pop up eventually. I have Group Me right here, where that's the fastest thing. And what happened during first hour is my YouTube live stream crashed. So one kid at home said, we can't see you. So then I went out here and I reset up a new stream and I launched it, trying to help the students at home. And then my 4th window is actually that. So I have 2 computers and 4 windows going to do the thing I normally used to just do by just talking and handing you papers. But here, let me tell you my theory, and then you guys tell me what your experience is. The reason I'm here today is because you're here today. So I'm going to spend the vast majority of my energy on the humans in the room. And if you're at home and it's not a perfect environment, I'm sorry, but it's kind of the focus is while you're here. So this is the part that I think I'm going to embrace is this, and then you at least get to be a little bit a part of it, you know. So and to me, it's an 80-20 thing. 80% of your learning in this class is going to be on these once a week days. 20% will be the online stuff that you do, sort of, you know, in addition to whatever you do on your own. So that was a lot of me talking. Can you guys tell me your experience with my class yesterday, as well as other classes? What's going well, what's going poorly, what you have questions about, what can I do better? What do you hope I never do that your other teacher is doing? I'm going to try never to use Zoom again. That's my goal. My goal is to do it like this. So tell me about it. What did you guys notice? Anything you can help me with? What was it like yesterday to be at home? What was it like not to do it yesterday? What was it like to do the attendance checks? Tell me any of that stuff. Wow, what's your name?
Maisry.
Maisry, thank you so much.
I feel like one of the things that isn't really in this class that helps me in my other classes is like making it more clear like what exactly we have to get done on the online days.
Okay. So what part of that is not clear? Because of the very last slide every day, I try to describe exactly kind of what you're supposed to do. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like just knowing that.
Okay, so watch this thing today, and I'll be very clear about setting the expectations. I try to do it at the beginning with a slide that shows previews the day, and then at the end, I have a slide at the end. So if you're at home, try to look at that last slide because it tries to button up everything, you know? Now, in terms of what we're doing during the class, that's going to be in the slides, and it'll, like I said, it'll be previewed. But if we're doing it in the class, it's there. Now, you guys, I don't think at home you can't see this very well, can you? This YouTube live thing. You probably can open the slideshow on your own. So I'll work very hard on being clear on those things. Cool. What else? Do you have something? You forgot? Excellent. Yes, sir. You are? Brendan, I'm going to ask your names over and over. And even if I know you, I'll ask your name just so that everybody feels like unknown, which is a good way for you all to feel the same. Okay? Brendan, thank you.
I thought it was good on like on the YouTube live. I went to comment and it said I had to like make my own account.
Yeah.
So like I guess I just gotta do that, but I think I'm like
Okay. Yeah. Part of the problem is anything I do, if I try to log in as you, I can't because I don't have a student account. I can log in as a stranger, but every time I even try to do something over here, it automatically grabs all of my credentials and all of my rights. So I don't think I see. So I'm glad you can. So it's my understanding you can watch and you can like, but if you want to comment, you have to come up. You either should comment in Google Classroom or on GroupMe, or you got to come up with a new way, or just be passive and just watch the video and just kind of sit there like you are right now. Can I hear a comment? See, most people don't comment anyway, right? So it doesn't matter if you're at home or here. Most people are silent anyway. Hi, you are? Thank you, Allison.
I didn't have a problem calling someone yesterday.
Using your Google Schools account. So here's another rumor I'm hearing. I'm hearing that there's a way that you can go down into your settings and change some of your access things. I don't know. I don't.
I had to like open up YouTube and open up the tab with.
Yeah. And to me, unfortunately, that's where I think that GroupMe could be helpful is if you figure it out and you want to be generous, you could type, here's what I did, and then maybe somebody else can learn. Because bottom line is, I don't know. It's the same way you borrow each other Netflix's passwords or whatever. You tell each other how to make the system work in your contingent. Some of you are using Chromebooks, some of you are using phones, some of you are using a different computer at home, whatever. I'm going to try hard not to use computers in this class. However, there are times when we are going to use the computer in the class because I want you to submit an assignment. I don't know. Some of my peers they're like y'all have all the screens on right now. Like they're teaching with Zoom right now, where you all are on Zoom in your seat, as well as the people at home are in the classroom, and they're doing these crazy things. But they're telling me like the bandwidth is just insane. I don't know. Does anyone sound like a robot right now? Thank God. Wasn't that awful? That was just awful. Okay. Anything else about the class, the way it's structured? Anything? Okay. All honesty. Hey, you guys at home, thanks for being here. All they're seeing is me walk across the screen for a few minutes. They're seeing nothing worth value. I think they can hear me. I have spent 100% of my energy trying to prepare lessons and trying to make links. I've had almost no time to do more than that. So the work you have done, I'm going to assess it. I'm going to put it in the grade book. Right now, the grades are only like if I don't have it. So if you ever need to communicate with me, you should email me or you should make a comment in Google Classroom. And I usually respond to those really fast. I don't know if you've seen me. I know some of you I've responded to several times already. And it seems to be a very amicable thing. And I do it really fast, unless I'm teaching, eating lunch, or sleeping. And I have to have this kind of line where I just draw it, like at a certain point, I'm done for the day. Doesn't mean I'm ignoring you, but I'll respond to you. My time is on silver days because I only have 1 off hour and it's on silver days. And on silver days, we also have a planning period, like in the morning, that access that we used to have, which is not really access anymore. So some of that stuff will sometimes wait till silver. Okay, we good? Comments, questions, concerns? We good? We good? All right. Yay, we're here. I'm glad you're here, guys. Holy cow. We're out of here today at 11:41. Is this your last class, anybody? And you just leave, okay? I mean, they don't want you hanging around here. It's not that we don't want you here, but the Jefferson County Health doesn't want that. So we just kind of want you out. Does anybody have any questions about the procedures of school or how this is working? Does it seem to be okay? Okay. All right. Hopefully you can get out of here and have a good lunch and have a life and all that. But we got to do our stuff today. Here we go. So here's the plan for today. So I always say welcome in a poem in the agenda every day. The class will always begin the same way. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about grades, which I already said a little bit, but I'm just going to reinforce it. Then we're going to continue with the essence object box thing that we did yesterday. Okay. And if you weren't here yesterday, because you were at home, you did this online. And if you didn't do this online, then it's just like you missed a day of school and you had no clue what's happening, because you had that in regular school sometimes, right? And you just have to get you caught up, okay? We're going to do the essence object box, and then we're going to do this values exercise, which is on this piece of paper right here. And then we're going to start looking at the personal statement. Your first paper of the year is a personal statement essay. It is a narrative essay. It is telling a story of you, okay? And we'll get into that as we go along. So here we go. If I press this, does it work? Yay. First off, grades. Just go on Infinite Campus. I'll punch in grades when I have them. Right now, it's just missing. The other thing I do is I do keep track of attendance and tardies. You have to be here. It's one of the requirements of school. If you're not here, just like in the past, somebody at home has to call the attendance office. So if you're virtual, but you're not in a place where you can get Wi-Fi because you're camping, then mom or dad has to call in and say, hey, trip or whatever, or at a doctor's appointment or really sick. And just excuse your absences just like you were in the past. But the way it says here, like I said, keep checking your grades. A blank assignment indicates I don't have it. No, indicates I have it. I just haven't scored it. The thing you should be worried about is if I have anything as missing, and you want to take care of that. Late work, you should probably tell me when you submit something late if I've already assessed scores for it, because if I haven't assessed scores, I'll know it's late because I haven't scored anybody's. But if it was like a month ago and you know that I've already given them back, you should let me know you turned it in, because I don't know, I got 177 emails yesterday from Google Classroom, 177 just during 5th and 7th hour, because it tells me every single thing that happens. So you got to let me know. Hey.
For that first essay.
Yeah. Yes.
I submitted it.
Okay. So that's the kind of thing you would write me a little note about, because then I can go drop right into you and then look at what's going on and solve the problem. Because I have 159 students. And I teach over 6 classes. I teach 6 classes. Anybody here taking 6 classes? Anybody here taking 7 classes? Okay. Anybody here taking 8 classes? How about 4, whatever? And I know it's hard, but you just keep track of yourself and let me know. Okay. Your seniors, reach out to me. And then attendance and tardies do affect your grade. Your attendance, if you have an unexcused absence to my class, you lose 30 points. And right now, I think you only have 15 points in this class period. If you're tardy to the class, you lose 10 points. Hey.
Okay, so for when you're at your house or whatever, how does the attendance work?
When you're at your house, everybody at home and you guys, what happens is Google Classroom turns on an attendance question at the beginning of the period by itself. And it's on for some of the passing period and a little bit into the class. And it's a simple question. And all you do is you say, you answer the question. So I think yesterday the question was, I am eligible to vote in this year's November election. And you either say, I am eligible or I'm not eligible. So right now, I know you're here because of this, okay? If you guys were at home and you did that late, I'd say, oh, you're tardy to my class. And then at the end of the class, there's another question that turns on at the end of the class, and it asks you another question. And that just proves to me that you're here and you stayed here during the time. Now, if you want to log in at the beginning, and then go play tennis for an hour and then come back in and log in at the end, I won't know anything different, okay? Am I saying you should do that? No. I would appreciate it if you would attend the class that you're signed up for, free and public education. Some of my colleagues they're like burying a question inside their YouTube live right now. So like in minute 24, something will flash on the screen and then you have to deal with it right then, I don't have time for that, I figure everything always works out, So bottom line is you need to log in and log out. Now, you guys are all going to have a missing assignment for today because you didn't do the attendance check-in. So you should probably just do it real quick so that you don't have any blanks. Yeah, but no, well, not now. Because it's late anyway, it doesn't matter because I know you're here. So this will not affect your attendance, right? Because I know you're here. But it would just be a way for you just to check off so that when you go in Google Classroom, everything looks like it's turned in. Because can't you see that ugly red missing? Okay. We good? All right. So off we go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start doing the thing we did last time, which is the Essence Objects box. So I guess you do need a computer. So if you guys could fire up your computers, which takes an hour and a half probably. Hey,
I don't have my phone.
right? You have that, right?
Okay.
Okay. Fire up, get into Google Classroom. And take a look at your essence object list you made. And if you didn't make an essence object list, then you can go through yesterday's slideshow and you can go through yesterday's Zoom, which is YouTube link, which is there. Because all that stuff stays forever, right? Everything I'm saying is forever on the internet. Make sense? All right. And I want you to take a look at the essence object list that you completed for today. And that was due today by 7:30. If you're like, if this is news to you, why is it news to you, right? Because it's what we did in class yesterday. It was on the slideshow. It was during the class. Does that make sense? If it's news to you? No? So take a look at your essence object list that you completed for today. We're logging in, it takes a while. But like I said, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's exactly the same as in a previous year if you just missed a day of school and you had no idea what was going on, right? But if you did this yesterday, we're good to go. I asked you to make a list of 20 essence objects and put them in a box, type the box, and put it on a computer screen, or put it in a computer doc thing, which I think I can see right here. If I click on here from yesterday, essence object from yesterday. Oh, that's the wrong class. That ain't gonna work. Period 5. Period 5. Say something if you need another moment. Everybody's got it? Okay. So under the essence object box, yeah, I can see that like 23 people in this class turned it in. Okay. So I don't know if that's you guys or people at home or what. So take a look at your essence object list that you created. What's in your box? And let's go look at the word essence. Essence is a noun. And it is the intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract that determines its character. So you have an essence. You have a nature that is inside of you and intrinsic to you. It is indispensable. It is absolutely a part of who you are. It is your character. It is your you. It is your soul. It is yourself. And it is who you are. It is determinate for you. And so what I asked you is to find objects that would resonate with your essence. Okay? Or an essence is also a property or a group of properties without which it would not exist. So your essence is the property or group of properties that make you who you are. And you're like, if I didn't have this quality represented in, I don't know, like a sticky note, like I put a sticky note in my box and that represents this quality of me, that if I didn't have that quality, I wouldn't be me. So as you survey your list today, which essences are missing though? Is every aspect of you there? Think more abstractly. Think of qualities not yet represented in the list. Look at the phrases in blue above. How could you represent those qualities in terms of objects? For example, if you keep lists, perhaps you could put a Post-it note in your box because you're a list maker. Or if you're easily angered, maybe you could put lighter fluid in your box. Or if you're good at a lot of things, maybe you put a Swiss Army knife. Or maybe if you're a sharp person, you would put in an X-Acto knife. One of the essences to my character is I have a temper, okay? And if you ask people about me, does Eric have a temper? They'd be like, yeah, he has a temper. So if I don't have something in my essence box that reflects my temper, then I'm not sure I'm saying who I am. And it's not a positive thing about me. I think my temper is embarrassing, you know? I think it's awful. So what I might include in my box would be, for example, this broken piece of a printer, because one time the printer at home wouldn't print, so I threw it off the deck into the backyard. And that little thing shows a piece of who I am. And it's not a good quality. It's terrible. But I could say that's who I am. So here's what I want you to do. In a private comment on Google Classroom, I want you to put down 3 more objects. Now, you don't have to tell me why. Okay? You don't have to tell me what's missing from your list. But you would add 3 more objects to your list in the private comment. because once you submit something in Google Classroom, it's kind of locked in time and you already submitted this. If you didn't submit this, well, you'll do that late and then you'll add your private comment here. Okay, if you can't do this right now, you'll do it once you've done your list. Any questions about that? So think about your essential objects. Think about what's missing. If somebody had to describe you and say, what is your essence? It doesn't have to be flattering. It could be make you vulnerable, which is good. I'll give you a minute or two for that. If you have questions, holler at me. I'll come over and chat. The people at home do this too. Yeah, I just got a comment on Google Chat or on YouTube Live. Do the people at home do this? Yeah, anything we're doing in class, you're doing at home. In theory, it's the same thing. Yesterday, we folded a piece of paper in four. We wrote things in quadrants. You know, those are the things we did in class yesterday that you did. And if you didn't do it, don't feel bad. Okay, just realize that's how class is. There are things that I need to do at on home to do that. Tie your nose. All corona comes through your nose. You had no idea. Very good, very good. I'm going to give you guys 30 more seconds. So we'll do this little activity right now. You don't have to say why, because that's between you and your essence objects. But everybody just throw something out real quick. We're just going to bounce around the room, and we'll do that as a way for me to learn some names. You just say something that's in your essence object box. And I said some yesterday, but I don't think I mentioned in my essence object box is a meeple. Okay? You don't have to say why, but just say what it is. What's something in your essence object box? Okay, let's start with and you're going to give me a number. Who wants to go first? You just have to say something in your box. This is for me, way for me to learn names. Okay, and your name is Dane, right? What do you got? Clock. Can you be more specific about the clock? Maybe I should have been more specific about my meeple. My meeple is a blue meeple, a blue wooden meeple. Okay, what kind of clock? Which clock is in your box? What exact clock is in your box?
Okay. Well, I just put clock because.
Well, no, don't tell me why. But what clock? If you had to literally put a clock in the box, which clock would you put in?
I'm confused.
The box holds a clock. What clock? This clock?
Sure.
This clock?
Sure. Yeah. Just
That clock goes in your box. Dane, give me a number between 1 and 5. Abby,
My dog,
your dog. What's your dog's name?
Diablo,
Diablo. What kind of dog is it?
he's a pit bull.
You're going to put a pit bull in a box. Give me a number between 1 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Caleb, a telescope is going to go in the box. Give me a number between 1 and 5. 2. Ellie, what was that? Palms. Palms. Give me a number between 1 and 5. 3. Grace. What? Your cat? What's your cat's name? Autumn the cat goes in the box. Give me a number. Between 1 and 5. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Brendan. Your school backpack, that one right there? What's on that backpack? Nice. Next, give me a number between 1 and 5. Number
Uh,
3. Allison. Cinnamon rolls from where? Homemade cinnamon rolls. Give me a number. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Robert.
Cake drum.
What?
A cake drum.
A cake drum?
Cake drum.
Kick drum. Very nice. Give me a number between 1 and 4. 1 and 5, Robert.
4.
4. 1, 2. That's the most common number we've been having. 3, 4. Joe.
Spaghetti.
What kind of spaghetti? Cooked? Uncooked?
Cooked.
Cooked spaghetti.
Yeah.
All right. Number?
3.
1, 2, 3. Nikwa.
like a travel size hand sanitizer.
Travel hand sanitizer. Good. Give me a number.
1.
1. Molly.
Sorry, red beards, sorry.
Sorry, no, it happens.
Red bands.
Red Vans. Give me a number.
5.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. DJ. Or Daniel. What do you go by? DJ.
I said, my Jeep.
Your Jeep? Your Jeep would go in a box. No. Okay. Keys to your Jeep, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then is it Maizri?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
May-E? Do we do all those syllables? May-E's-Ri?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Two-
no, made.
Maizri, 2 syllables. Thank you. And what's in your box?
A ladybug from the tree.
A ladybug from the tree in your front yard. Here we go. So as we go through this, oh, come on, Friesen. The purpose of this objects exercise, T.S. Eliot, the poet, T.S. Eliot, the playwright, whose name anagrams to toilets, by the way. T.S. Eliot once said, the only way to express emotion, this thing that moves us as humans in art, is through an object correlative. What is an object correlative? It's an object which you correlate, you put together with emotions, memories, and complex meanings. It's all we do in English class. We take things in our lives, we take things in the universe, and we attach meaning to them. And so you take your emotion, your memory, your complex nature of your meaning of your existence, and you put it in an object. That way the object becomes more than an object. Okay? Every object in your essence box should be an object correlative, something that means something that is important about the complex part, complex nature of you. So you look at your list. Does it feel pretty good? Feel pretty familiar? It should. And the personal statement essay you're going to write is going to be that personal. One of the key to the personal statement essay is that it has to be about you and not somebody else. If I read it and say, oh, somebody else wrote that last year. Or if I say, oh, yeah, another kid in my first hour would say the exact same thing. It's not an essay that is a personal, which is why we're tapping into the essence of who you are and your vulnerabilities, okay? And your what we're going to move into now, which is your values. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on this sheet that here we go. Just to clarify, I'm not saying that any or all of the objects on your list will end up in your final draft, but some of these objects might make their way into the draft, because if these objects mean something to you, maybe there's a story behind them, or maybe there's something that in this thing you can see who I am, what I believe, how I've kind of interpreted my own life. Chances are, even if you don't write about the actual object, you'll write about the essence that the object represents. So it may be the essence of care, or the essence of humility, or the essence of selfishness in your essay. Okay? The point is, if you've taken the object exercise seriously and you've described a unique set of objects, then you'll have the material for a personal narrative, either in the object or in the essence under the object. In fact, you have the material for dozens of personal essays, but right now we're going to write one. The question is, of course, which essence, which object, what should you do, which leads to the actual questions. So, or actually it leads to the values exercise. So take a look at the values exercise handout. You guys at home got this piece of paper, and it's also on Google Classroom, and I'm going to give this to you right now. We're going to use this piece of paper this week and next week. So take this little guy right here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to use the front side this week and the back side next week. The computer we're going to need eventually, but not for a little bit. So So if you want to like close it so it doesn't kill your battery, if you could pass that to Molly, that'd be groovy. There's that. There we go. Here we go. And I guess just like normal school, if you guys have like in your lap like Snapchat or something like that, don't do that. Okay, I totally get that we have an online world and that your world is like super important on a phone. But if you want that, just go remote. Just don't be here at all. Okay, because ultimately we're here for the human interaction in this room. And and here's the basic math is 75 minutes. You're in this room for 75 minutes a week. There are 60 minutes in an hour. There's 24 hours in a day. There's 7 days in a week. If you do the math behind that, I'm asking you to be engaged in this moment for a very small amount of time. Okay, so you guys can do that. But if your phone's super important to you, I totally get that. Okay, but you can put it in your lap and assume I'm an idiot, or you can switch to remote, or you can put up with this. But bottom line is, I think it's insulting. Now, you do what you want to do. Here we go. Values exercise. To begin, I need you to look through this list. And I'm going to ask you to place a check mark in the little box beside your top 10 value. If you need to write a value that's not there, there's some blanks at the end. And you have 2 minutes to mark 10 values that that are yours. You have 2 minutes to write 10 values, and we'll wait till the number's up here. We'll go until 11:07. 2 minutes to mark 10 values. Exactly 10. Go.
Is it like 10 values?
Your values.
Yourself?
Your values. What do you value?
Okay.
You. Your time's half up. At home, you're playing along, right? And your time is up. Count 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You good? You might want to think about if any of these essence objects that you put in your box, if they somehow correlate between what you've played, what you've checked here. Is there a representation between the physical things that you can see, touch, taste, feel, and hear in that box, and the abstract ideas that are on this list? Because these things are not things you can see, touch, taste, feel, and hear. Okay, next, take those 10, shrink the list. I need you to put a star next to your top 5 values. You have 30 seconds to take those 10 and pick the 5 that are the 5 most, the 5 values that you hold the most. 30 seconds, go. You have to immediately cut 5. So save 5 with stars. All right, that's it. Now I need you guys to shrink it again. And I need you to look at those 5 that you just starred. And of those 5, I need you to underline 3 of them. You have 15 seconds. Pick the 3 most important of the 5 you have. Go. And that's it. And now you got to go back to those 3 and you need to circle 1. What is, if somebody says, what is your value? What is it? You pick 1 and you circle it. And by forcing you to check, star, underline, and circle, it forces you to make a commitment to something that's probably pretty abstract for you. I teach a book called Cold Mountain sometimes. And in Cold Mountain, this Civil War soldier, he's been wounded in a battle and he decides, I'm done, I'm going to walk home. And he decides to walk across 2 states to get home because he's had enough. And at one point, he's hungry and he's injured and it's cold and it's dark. And he crosses this river past midnight. And as he emerges from the far bank, he reaches down and he daubs he takes some mud from the riverbank and he daubs the breast of his coat with a circle. And he places another circle inside that circle. And he puts a single dot in the middle. And he says, this journey will be the axle of my life. And I've used that image in my life for a long time. This journey is the axle of my life. What is the axle of your life? What is the thing around which your life spins? When I was a teacher in this building, we had a shooting. And that shooting was the axle of my life for 3 years. For 3 years, everything I did or thought or conversation I had, people who knew me had to walk around me like so scared because they knew that this guy's life revolved around the mass murder that occurred at his workplace on one Tuesday morning. Okay? And so that became the axle of my life. Now, the shooting at Columbine High School is merely a spoke on the wheel of my life. And I have many spokes on my life. But if you ask me right now, what is the thing around which my life revolves? What is my core value? That's, I hope, what you have circled. It's the thing around which your life probably revolves. And if this is hard to do, well, of course it's hard to do. Okay? But that's kind of where we're at. So now what do we do? Well, come on. Oh, why does this keep doing this? I don't understand. So now we have, this little bonus. Okay, connect with your future. I'll lead you through this. So take a look at your check, starred, underlined, and circled top value. Now we have to do something. Yesterday, the students did this on a blank piece of paper. They folded it into quadrants. You're going to do it in the real world. Take out a piece of paper. If you don't have a piece of paper, smart kid next to you will give you COVID and a piece of paper. Okay, you need a blank piece of paper. Okay, if you don't want to borrow a piece of paper from a student, there is a drawer full of paper right here that you can borrow a piece of paper from that. Okay. If you don't have a pen or a pencil and a computer and a piece of paper, what did you think your senior year in high school was going to be? Okay, it's not like this new thing called school we've invented, okay? You got a blank piece of paper? Here we go. Take out a blank piece of paper and write the value on the top of your piece of paper. This is private writing. I don't know if you heard me say this yesterday. Some of the writing in this room will be shared. Some of the writing in this room will not be shared. If it's on Google Docs, it's totally shared, okay? But if it's on a piece of paper, it is yours. You can kind of cover it with your hand. I will never read your private writing. There are things that I do not want to share with you humans. There's things that I don't want to share with my own children. You don't have to share this with me, okay? But I want to see that you're at least doing something because the process of doing it helps you. The whole point is you're going to write something about yourself. So what we're doing is just practicing getting comfortable with that. If you guys were watching at home, remember yesterday I had them write, if you knew me better, something if you knew me, you'd know this about me and things they loved and things they were grateful for and things they celebrated. Well, we're going to do this. Write the value on the top of the paper and answer 3 questions. And you can do 1, 2, 3 and put as time as you need. Number 1, why is this your top value? Your eyes only. Number 2, how does this value manifest in your life? Okay, so why does it exist? 2, how do we see it in your life? And 3, do any of the objects in your essence objects box show the value? And if so, which ones and how? And if not, why not? And what object would show this value? So those 3 questions. Top value, why did you choose it? How does it manifest in your life? And connect it to an object in your object box, okay? Make sense? And this is where you're just writing, because there's nothing wrong with what you're writing, okay? Hello, hi, I got that. Why did you choose this top value? How does it manifest in your life? And connect it to an essence object. And I'm going to shut up in a second, but just keep writing. Because the point is you get your ideas onto paper, you get it on the computer. Ultimately, you got to write like 650 words, which is a couple of pages. So just get used to putting your thoughts in paper. Maybe give you a little time frame of how much we're looking for. I'm just going to look for maybe you're finishing the first question about now. You've got that much time for a question. Keep going, keep going. If you don't know what to write, just write. I don't know what to 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 write. Writing's like push-ups. They're really hard. I tell you my marathon story. I turned 50 this year. I decided to run a marathon. So 2 days, this weekend I ran 11 miles, which was really hard. How do you run 11 miles? I don't know. You run 1 mile, and then another mile, and another mile, and eventually you get there. But how do you write a full page? You just keep writing, and you fill one, and you fill one, and you fill one. You can do it. I'm so slow. Caddyshack's not so cool. Above your head, you put a 101 if you're on question 1, a 2 if you're on question 2, a 3 if you're on question 3, or you go a fist if you're done. That way you get a feel for the room. Thank you so much. Give you 1 more minute. 1 more minute, people at home. Like and subscribe. If you could click on these buttons over here, they'll take you to Amazon links where you can support my channel. How many subscribers I have? They have 32 subscribers. Getting there. Getting there. How many do you have? No? Yeah. It's thumbing me so quickly. Holy cow. Yeah. You good? Okay, wrap it up. Here we go. Your personal statement essay is going to look at a couple of core values you possess. You have to. There are 4 things your personal statement will need. One is it needs vulnerability, which sucks because you're putting yourself out there. But we all put ourselves out there every day. Okay? And the vulnerability is where it makes it personal. And you have to say something that makes it uniquely you. Vulnerability, where you're willing to say, you know what, here's who I am. So vulnerability, which we'll talk about. Yeah, you don't just get to say in your personal essay, I played JV soccer and it was really hard because I didn't make varsity, but I guess that made me a better person. That's not vulnerability, okay? You dig into the tension of your expectation coming to smack you in the face with the reality of unfair practices or whatever. You also have to have, in addition to vulnerability, your personal statement essay is going to have values. What do you believe in this world that makes you distinct from someone else? You pair your vulnerability perhaps with your values, and you're starting to get to that. And we'll get to the other two things next week, okay? So here we go. By the way, if you participated in class right now, that's what we're doing. I'll give you like little kind of participation-y points. And so like when you're home, I have no idea if you're doing that, but in here I can see that. And that's part of the reason I wanted you to do this on paper. So personal statement. So your personal statement we're going to do is we're gonna look at 4 models, and we're going to look at a personal statement. You're gonna have 6 prompts to choose from, but there's actually a hidden 7th prompt. These 6 prompts are found in the 2021 Common Application. If you are choosing to attend college, many schools ask for the Common Application, but the Common Application essays are literally, they're common. That means any student in America wanting to do anything with his or her future can answer one of these questions, which is all of you. You're all someone who have a future, and you can say something about that. So they are incredibly broad. So you don't have to write on one of these yet, but for now, let's just take a look at the choices that are out there. So here's what the 6 common app prompts are. If you are choosing to apply to college, I would hope that the one you craft here, you love, and you're like, hey, I've done something in school that I can then attach to my, my UC Santa Barbara application or whatever, and then I'm good to go. Here we go. The personal statement prompts are as follows. Number 1. And I'm going to actually highlight some of these words here so they jump out a little bit. And maybe they don't jump out well because it's blue. Let me turn off one set of lights. So number 1 is, some students have a background, identity. I'm going to go all the way back here. And if you can't see this, you should get contacts or glasses. Because when I was a junior at Columbine High School, Madame Lutz told my parents I couldn't read. No, it wasn't a junior in high school. It was a Miss Weisser Beckwith in Ken Carl, because I was 13. She told my mom I couldn't read because in French class she used to watch me in the back of the room push on my eyes because then I could change the curvature of my eyes and I could see better. Okay, so if you can't see, fix your eyes. Here we go. Or you can open up your Chromebook because this is on the website. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is meaningful, or so meaningful, they believe a picture of them would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, tell your story. So that's one of your choices. Second is, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? Or if you don't want to write about that, you could pick, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. Was it your belief or somebody else's? What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? Number 4 is, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It could be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. Number 5 is, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself and others. Or 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? And then there's a hidden 7th that is literally says, submit any essay you would like. And so we are writing an essay where you can write anything you want as long as it is a personal statement, and it will do the things we ask, which are show something personal with the vulnerability. It will express a value, and we'll talk about the structure for that, the other thing, or the criteria as well. So this is available to you on, if you Google right now, You don't have, I'm not saying do that now. I'm saying if, like, you go to the common application, it has on the common app, like, I am an application for a first-time student. These are the 2019-18 prompts, which are the first-year prompts, and they're right here. They're using the exact same prompts this year. On another page, they say that. Let me go back here. That's really weird. We also have on here. Where is it? The world is ready for you. Plan for your future. I don't even know. I don't want to do this. Okay, the bottom line is they're exactly that. And if you're going to college, perfect. If you're not, doesn't matter. Everybody's going to write a personal statement. So today what we're going to do for the rest of the period, you guys are out of here in like 25 minutes. So we'll start this in class, and then you're going to do, this is your homework for next week. And it's due, well, I'll give you a sense and tell you what it is in a minute. Today you're going to look at 4 successful personal statements. 4 good ones. And you're going to apply the 3-step approach we used last week to look at the short stories and the poetry to it. You're going to look at what is it about? How did the student choose to write it? And why is it significant? What does it say about the human condition? You're going to do the what step or the what, how, why on each of those. So your assignment is, we're going to do the first one together. We're going to read each essay carefully. Then you're going to annotate the essay, and you're going to annotate it on Google, on Docs, and you're going to kind of comment on it. You need to highlight 5 little parts of the essay that spoke to you in one way or another, and you're going to have to say a comment that tells me why. Like you're going to say, this section was, I really like the style this author used here, or this part here shocked me, or I thought this was hilarious. You need 5 comments per essay, and you need to annotate it in Google Classroom and submit it. At the end of each essay, there's a little chart for what, how, why, and then you just need to be prepared with what you think next week, either on Monday through online medium or on Tuesday when you're actually in class, okay? And you make sure you submit it to Google Classroom. So right now, if you have your computer, you'd fire up your computer right now and you jump into Google Classroom, and I'll show you, I'll put it up here for you if you don't. But you can start doing this work right now. So if we go to personal statement essay today, and you view the assignment, instructions, there it is. The assignment, read each essay carefully, annotate the essay, a minimum of 5 comments per essay, and then at the end of each essay, fill out the chart. So here's what it looks like. Here are 5 essays. There's personal statement number 4, there's personal statement number 5, there's personal statement number 7, and there's personal statement number 11. There's 4 of them, okay? And at the end of each of them, there's this little chart, and you fill out the chart for each of them. So let's do this one. We're going to do this one together. And then as you read it, you're going to annotate it, and then you're going to fill out the little chart at the bottom. And the chart just says summarize what the essay is about, and you type in here what the essay is about. It says was the essay created, like look at the features that the author chose to do, and you put your comments here. And then the why is this essay, connecting to values or some essence or some larger idea, and you put your thoughts here. So your assignment is read 4 things, make some comments on them, and then write these little boxes, okay? And you have until next Monday to do that, which is a really long time. Ready? Let's do one together just for fun. Flying. By the way, all of these are approximately the length. The length your personal essay has to be is 450 to 650 words, okay? How long is flying? Flying is tools, word count, 640 words. So it's pushing the 650 words. Okay, here we go. Flying. As a young child, I was obsessed with flying. I spent hours watching birds fly, noting how the angle of their wings affected the trajectory of their flight. I would then waste tons of fresh printer paper, much to the dismay of my parents, to test out various wing types by constructing paper airplanes. One day, this obsession reached its fever pitch. I decided to fly. I built a plane out of wooden clothes racks and blankets with trash bags as precautionary parachutes. As you can imagine, the maiden flight didn't go so well. After being in the air for a solid second, the world came crashing around me as I slammed onto the bed, sending shards of wood flying everywhere. Yet, even as a 5-year-old, my first thoughts weren't about the bleeding scratches that covered my body. Why didn't the wings function like a bird's wings? Why did hitting something soft break my frame? Why hadn't the parachutes deployed correctly? Above all, why didn't I fly? As I grew older, my intrinsic drive to discover why simulated a desire to solve problems, allowing my singular passion of flying to evolve into a deep-seated love of engineering. I began to challenge myself academically, taking the hardest STEM classes offered. Not only did this allow me to complete all possible science and math courses by the end of my junior year, but it also surrounded me with the smartest kids of the grades above me, allowing me to access advanced research they were working on. As such, I developed an innate understanding of topics such as protein function in the brain and differential equation modeling early in high school, helping me develop a strong science and math foundation to supplement my passion for engineering. I also elected to participate in my school's engineering pathway. As a team leader, I was able to develop my leadership skills as I identified and utilized each member's strength to produce the best product. I sought to make design collaborative, not limited to the ideas of one person. In major group projects such as building a hovercraft, I served as both president and devil's advocate, constantly questioning if each design decision was the best option, ultimately resulting in a more efficient model that performed significantly better than our initial prototype. Most of all, I sought to solve problems that impact the real world. Inspired by the water crisis in India, I developed a water purification system that combines carbon nanotube filters with shock electrodialysis to both desalinate and purify water more efficiently and cost-effectively than conventional plants. The following year, I ventured into disease detection, designing a piezo-restrictive micro-cantilever that detected the concentration of beta amyloid protein to medically diagnose a patient with Alzheimer's disease, a use for cantilevers that hadn't been discovered. The project received first honors in the Georgia Science Fair. Working on these two projects, I saw the raw power of engineering, an abstract idea gradually becoming reality. I was spending most of my days understanding the why behind things, while also discovering solutions to prevalent issues. In a world that increasingly prioritizes a single solution, I am captivated by engineering's ability to continuously offer better answers to each problem. 13 years have passed since that maiden flight. I have yet to crack the physical human flight. My 5-year-old self would have seen this as a colossal failure, but the intense curiosity that I found in myself that day is still with me. It has continued to push me, forcing me to challenge myself to tackle ever more complex problems, engrossed by the promise and capacity of applicability of engineering. I may never achieve human flight. However, now that I see what seemed like a crash landing as a runway, the platform off of which my love of engineering first took flight. So as you read this, there is no way that anybody else in the world could write this. It is incredibly personal. It's about this person's past and their future and their present. We know about their hopes. We know about their dreams. If I were to annotate this, I just find 5 things that stuck out. Like I might just highlight this. What I see once like a crash landing seemed a runway. And I might just write in the margin, I like that, how poetic that is. Just the idea that an end could be a beginning, but the imagery of a crash and a runway, the idea of starts and ends. I like that. And I might highlight this, and I might say, I like how this author answered or asked basically 4 key questions to set up the idea of why. If I can tell you one thing about this person right now. What is a value this person possesses? Curiosity. And that's a thing that makes this person essential. So you will let your story tell your values in such a way that you'll express that. Now, am I impressed by, I might also highlight this down here. I don't know about this. I had to read this out loud. I might highlight that and say, I'm not sure what a piezo-restrictive micro-cantilever is. And I'll be like, wow, this person's pretty darn impressive to be 18. But at the end of the day, your story of curiosity could be as powerful because the story is not about that. The story is about a kid, jumping off a roof. Make sense? Then you fill out the little chart on the bottom. Just prove you right. What was it about? It was about a kid who, wants to fly, blah, blah, blah. How was it written? Well, did you see how it was framed with the story that they started with the 5-year-old and ended with the 5-year-old? What choices were made? I don't know. You had the repeated questions. You had these ideas. And then why? What does it say about the values and essences? And you just type in that little box. Does this make sense? You guys are pretty quiet. I hope it makes sense. If you are at home right now, you guys at home, like and subscribe. Thank you so much, okay? If you're at home, hopefully you're getting this message and we're there. So here's what we're doing. You guys are building this by next Monday. How long is it going to take you? I don't know. Time yourself. How long does it take to do one? You got to do it 4 times. That's it. So your homework, my friends, for next time is, let's see, if I press, I don't know how to do this. Where is it? Is it here? No. Here. Your homework is this. Think about the essay prompts. You should reread them on your own and think about them, because next week you're going to have to be picking one. So you might want to preview them, think about them. Are there any you're leaning towards? You'll select one next week. You should keep the value exercise sheet, because on the back of it is another exercise we're going to do next week. So you need that either at home or in here. And then read through, annotate, and fill out the chart for the remaining personal statement essays. And this is all due Monday by 7:35 in the morning. Okay? I should add the word AM for some of you guys. But so even though you don't have this physical class until Tuesday, the homework is due by Monday by 7:35. Make sense? Comments, questions? Okay, why don't I shut up and you can get one of these done right now, right? I think so. Call me over if you have any questions. Hey. You just keep letting me know, okay? Right.
And then like some other stuff.
You know, I say front is good, I try to make them big. If you read this at the same time, because the same information is here, if this is worse, you know, you just keep me in the loop, okay? Okay, good, thanks. Let's see this, let's see what that's. Oh.
Yeah.
87 degrees by the end of this week. 87 degrees on what, Saturday this week? Look forward to it. Get my fan back on.
So as we wind down, there's only about like a minute and 2 minutes left, minute and a half. You guys have to just keep me in the loop, okay? If you email me, I'll respond to you. If you text or if you Google me, I'll respond to you. I just did it right now for 2 students in third hour. They're like, I couldn't do the checkout, Friesen, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But if I get nothing from you, I'm assuming it's all going smashingly or not well at all, but I just kind of have to assume. So advocate for yourselves, please, in this world. So what's your next commitment for me? Next Monday? Yeah, next Monday, you turn on the computer screen for a Google Live at 10:26. And we'll be doing stuff with this personal statement essay. Okay? And then we're back here, what? Next Tuesday. And then next Friday, there's this weird asynchronous day, but we'll talk about that next week. For now, just embrace. What's the best part about a 3-day weekend? 4-day week, baby. Okay? I became a teacher for 3 reasons. You know what they are? June, July, and August. You know why I became a teacher? Because my wife wouldn't marry me. I also became a teacher because I can walk out of here right now and earn 80% of my salary for the rest of my life. Right now. And I'm 50. And I'm going to live to be 52. Bye. Have a good day. Don't smoke. Get out. Thank you.
I don't know, man.
Caleb, you all right? Shall we dance? What's up, man?
Have a good day.
Just like that. Yes.
For red filter really doesn't do it justice.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And also we're doing that connection between, who I was and who I want to be, which is often what a personal statement is like. Yeah. Sweet, man. Hi. Which one are you? Brendan Trio. Nice to see you again. It'll take me forever because I'm bad with names and I'm bad with faces. And you don't have. Well,
Thank
look
you.
at that. Bye. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you, Mr. Friesen.
Okay, Brendan Trio. We've emailed back and forth many times. Okay, what's up?
I'm talking about that. I can email you again if it would be easier.
What did I do? What did I screw up?
I still have a 66%.
Okay, Debbie, let's see what you've done.
Yeah.
There's only like 3 things right now because none of that work is in.
Yeah.
All it is just
Two of them were the forms I was missing, so and then I did both of them.
Uh-huh.
For you,
Let's make
so
sure.
only one of them that I did.
you Trujillo again.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the course expectation signature, which is right here. Course expectation signature. There you are, right there. Perfect. And so we go right here, and we go click, 5, boom, you have 100% in the class. See how easy that is?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And I don't know if this has to do with the attendance place, but I still was missing.
What's missing?
My absence. I was still absent for like the first.
So if I click on you, and I go like this and this, there's a new window, and we go to attendance. That. You were here?
Yes.
Was it just online or something like that?
The first day of online.
Okay, so right now I'm going to go like this, I'm gonna hit this, and I'm going to sign in, and I'm going to say, please excuse. Done. See how easy it is to fix things? Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate that.
No, thank you.
All right, take care.
Have a nice day. Don't smoke.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You need it.
Yes, I did, and I updated it this morning. No, you're good, man. There's all these little parts. No, you're all good. Everything's good. No, thanks for, just keep me online, okay? Keep checking in on me. Because I have no problem in you guys catching up, because the whole world is crazy right now, so we're good. Thank you. Oh, yes, I shall. Hi, Mr. Andres.
How you doing, man?
That's good. Change. I'm okay. It's just kind of, it's weird. It's just weird to be, oh, Google live stream is off. Now we're going to be off. End stream. No more broadcasting. That's just crazy. I got 33 subscribers though. If I get 1,000, I think I start making